Long before the first cities rose, before written history recorded our beginnings, there were structures built with precision, scale, and ingenuity that still defy explanation. Massive stone walls rise from the earth in patterns that echo an understanding of geometry and astronomy far beyond what we thought possible for their time. Hidden deep within valleys, atop windswept cliffs, or buried beneath layers of soil, these ancient creations whisper of civilizations that achieved feats we can barely imagine. How were these colossal stones cut, transported, and assembled with such accuracy? Without modern machinery, without the tools we rely on today. What knowledge guided their creators, and what purpose did these enigmatic monuments truly serve? Tonight, we will journey into the shadows of history, exploring the astonishing structures that challenge our understanding of human potential. Step closer, open your mind, and prepare to witness discoveries that make us question not just what came before us, but what we truly know about the limits of human ingenuity. Perched dramatically on the edge of the Aran Islands in Western Ireland, Dun Aengus commands a breathtaking view of the Atlantic Ocean, its cliffs plunging hundreds of feet into the churning waters below. From above, the fort resembles a series of concentric terraces, almost like ripples frozen in stone, each one meticulously carved and layered into the rugged limestone. The wind sweeps relentlessly across the plateau, carrying the faint scent of salt and seaweed, and it is easy to imagine that for anyone standing here in antiquity, the world must have felt vast, limitless, and mysterious. Even today, the sheer scale of the site evokes awe. Walls up to 5 meters thick, massive stone enclosures, and circular fortifications that defy simple explanation. Archaeologists date Dun Aengus to the late Bronze Age, around 1100 to 800 BCE, and classify it as a ring fort. Yet, calling it merely a defensive structure does not capture the full weight of its presence. The outer walls form perfect arcs, their stones so precisely stacked that some appear almost sculpted rather than simply assembled. Inside, the fort contains passageways, terraces, and remnants of dwellings, hinting at a complex society with advanced knowledge of construction. Scholars suggest it may have served multiple purposes: a refuge during conflict, a ceremonial site, or even a marker of territorial dominance. But how a community without modern tools could move and arrange such enormous stones with such precision remains an enduring question. Beyond the measurable and documented, Dun Aengus brims with enigmas. No evidence exists of a large-scale population capable of constructing the fort as we see it today, and yet here it stands, immense, enduring, and impossibly situated on a cliff that seems to defy logistical reason. Some researchers speculate that the builders possessed an understanding of structural engineering that has since been lost, a kind of intuitive mastery of forces and balance that modern engineers can admire but not fully reconstruct. Others point to the fort's alignment with natural contours and certain solar or lunar patterns, hinting at a possible astronomical or ritual significance that has largely faded from memory. Why here? Why in this location, where the Atlantic winds lash so violently against the limestone cliffs? The answers remain frustratingly elusive. Local legends only deepen the mystery. Irish folklore whispers of kings and heroes, of battles fought in the mists that roll off the ocean, and of a time when giants roamed these islands. While such stories cannot be taken as literal history, they reflect the awe that Dun Aengus has inspired for centuries, a place where human ambition meets the raw, untamed forces of nature. Could it be that the fort's builders intended more than mere survival? Perhaps they were creating a monument, a statement of power, or a bridge to the divine, encoded in stone and earth in ways we are only beginning to perceive. Even as modern technology allows us to map and measure Dun Aengus in intricate detail, 3D scans of walls, aerial photography, geological surveys, the core of the mystery remains untouched. The human ingenuity it represents is undeniable, yet the techniques and intentions of its creators linger just beyond our comprehension. Step carefully along its terraces, and one feels a profound sense of history pressing close, as if the fort itself is guarding its secrets, willing to reveal them only to those who approach with patience, curiosity, and respect. Standing at the edge of Dun Aengus today, looking out over the endless ocean, one cannot help but wonder, what drove the builders to undertake such a monumental task? Was it fear, devotion, ambition, or some purpose that has slipped entirely from our grasp? Perhaps the answers lie hidden beneath the layers of stone, or perhaps they are lost to time, leaving only the silent walls to speak of human ambition reaching far beyond the ordinary. As the wind rises and the waves crash below, the fort seems to ask quietly, insistently, are we ready to understand, or are some mysteries meant to endure? From the rolling plains of Khuzestan in southwestern Iran, the ancient site of Haft Tappeh rises subtly from the earth, its low, earthen mounds concealing stories that stretch back nearly 5 millennia. The sun casts long shadows across the landscape, illuminating traces of walls, courtyards, and ceremonial platforms that hint at a once thriving settlement. From above, the site appears deceptively simple, just a series of uneven rises in the soil, but closer inspection reveals careful planning and construction, a testament to the ingenuity of its builders. The air here is heavy with history, and one cannot help but feel the weight of human ambition pressing through time. Haft Tappeh, known as the ancient city of Giroft in some archaeological circles, dates to the early Bronze Age, around 2700 to 2000 BCE. Excavations have revealed complex mud brick structures, intricate irrigation channels, and an array of artifacts including finely carved stone vessels, seals, and inscriptions whose meaning continues to elude scholars. Mainstream research suggests it was a hub of trade and culture, possibly linked to the Elamite civilization. Yet the more we uncover, the more questions emerge. How did such advanced construction techniques appear in a region that, at the time, seems relatively isolated? The precision of the mud brick walls, the sheer scale of the ceremonial platforms, and the apparent sophistication of city planning challenge conventional assumptions about early urban development. What captures the imagination most, however, are the enigmas that resist explanation. Some of the carvings and artifacts exhibit symbols and iconography unlike anything else in the ancient Near East, suggesting a knowledge or artistic vision that appears almost otherworldly. Could these indicate lost technologies, or perhaps a symbolic language whose meaning has been buried by time? Certain architectural alignments seem to correspond with solar or celestial patterns, hinting at a deeper understanding of the heavens than previously credited to this period. Were these structures purely functional, or did they serve a ritualistic or astronomical purpose that modern eyes struggle to discern? As archaeologists continue to excavate, each discovery seems to deepen the mystery rather than resolve it. The city's foundations, built atop layers of previous settlements, suggest a continuity of human occupation and adaptation spanning centuries. Yet many of its most intriguing features, the carved stone vessels, enigmatic reliefs, and the layout of its ceremonial complexes, remain tantalizingly ambiguous. How did these ancient builders coordinate such feats of engineering without modern tools or written instruction? And what drove them to create these monumental forms in a landscape that, by today's standards, appears harsh and unforgiving? Local lore and historical fragments add further layers to the intrigue. Tales speak of rulers and sacred practices, of knowledge passed down in secret, and of a civilization that may have held insights into the natural world that we are only beginning to rediscover. These whispers, combined with the tangible evidence unearthed in the soil, evoke a sense of reverence, a reminder that human ambition has always sought to reach beyond immediate survival, to impose order, meaning, and perhaps even transcendence on the world. Standing amid the mounds of Haft Tappeh today, one is struck by the subtle yet profound question that seems to linger in the dry wind. How much of what we uncover is merely the surface of a far greater story? Are the mysteries of this ancient city waiting patiently beneath layers of earth, ready to reveal themselves? Or are some secrets destined to endure, challenging us to reconsider the limits of human ingenuity and the depth of what has already been lost to time? As we leave the sun-baked plains of Iran behind, our journey takes us across continents to the arid coastal valleys of northern Peru. Here, in the Chasma Valley, the ancient site of Sechin Bajo emerges quietly from the desert floor. From a distance, it seems almost unassuming, a series of low, earthen mounds stretching across a flat, sunlit landscape. Yet, as one approaches, the subtle complexity of the site begins to reveal itself. Terraces rising in gentle steps, massive stone foundations buried beneath centuries of sediment, and intricately carved reliefs that hint at human expression reaching back over 5,000 years. The wind carries a dry, metallic scent of the mountains inland, and the silence is punctuated only by the occasional call of a distant bird, emphasizing the sense that we have stepped into a world long abandoned yet still charged with presence. Sechin Bajo is recognized as one of the oldest monumental complexes in the Americas, with origins tracing back to around 3,500 BCE. Archaeologists have uncovered an array of structures, including stepped platforms, rectangular stone constructions, and carved friezes depicting figures in scenes of ritual or conflict. The most striking of these reliefs portrays human-like figures, their forms bold and sometimes unsettling, carved with precision into massive stone slabs. These carvings, some more than 3 meters in height, suggest not only artistic skill, but also a conceptual sophistication that seems remarkable for such an early period. Scholars generally interpret Sechin Bajo as a ceremonial or administrative center, yet even this seemingly straightforward explanation cannot fully account for the scale, the technique, or the level of organization required to construct it. The enigma deepens when we consider the technological and logistical context. Moving and shaping the colossal stones, some weighing several tons, without advanced machinery, presents questions that linger unresolved. How were these early builders able to quarry, transport, and position such massive blocks with such precision? And why were such significant resources devoted to constructing monuments in a landscape that, to the modern eye, seems remote and unforgiving? The orientation of the structures and the alignment of certain platforms with solar events hint at an understanding of astronomy and timekeeping that challenges conventional timelines of ancient knowledge. Could it be that the builders of Sechin Bajo possessed a conceptual framework for architecture and cosmic observation that is almost entirely lost to us? Some researchers speculate that these early Andean societies were more sophisticated than previously credited, capable of centralized planning, social coordination, and symbolic expression on a scale that predates many better-known civilizations. Others propose that certain artistic and structural choices, like the aggressive, almost martial imagery on the friezes, might reflect cultural or religious practices that we can only begin to imagine. Were these images merely symbolic, meant to convey power or ritual significance, or do they hint at events, beliefs, or knowledge now obscured by time? And why here, in this specific valley, did human ambition manifest so monumentally, leaving traces that continue to challenge our understanding of early civilization? Despite decades of excavation, large portions of Sechin Bajo remain buried beneath layers of sand and soil, waiting silently for discovery. The site's age, its scale, and its apparent sophistication continue to provoke both awe and curiosity. As we walk along its terraces, running fingers over the carved stones, we are reminded that human creativity and ambition have always sought to transcend immediate survival, reaching toward meaning, ritual, and permanence. There is a quiet power in these stones, an unspoken testimony of ingenuity and determination that survives millennia, even as the world around it changes. Standing here, amid the remnants of Sechin Bajo, one cannot help but ask, what else lies hidden beneath the desert sands, beyond what we have already uncovered? How much of this ancient knowledge has been lost, waiting to be glimpsed only through careful observation or perhaps through insight that has yet to emerge? The site challenges our assumptions, urging us to reconsider the origins of monumental construction, the capabilities of early civilizations, and the mysteries that remain stubbornly, beautifully unsolved. It is here, amid the sun-scorched earth and silent stones, that we are reminded human history is far deeper and stranger than we often imagine, and the questions raised by Sechin Bajo remain as open as the vast empty sky above. As our journey across ancient civilizations continues, we return to the heart of Iran, to the central plateau near the modern city of Kashan, where Tepe Sialk rises from the landscape like a monument both familiar and enigmatic. From a distance, the site appears as a series of gentle mounds, their contours blending with the surrounding terrain. But as one approaches, the subtle complexity becomes evident. Layers upon layers of clay and mud brick, carefully molded and compacted, revealing a construction of remarkable sophistication. The air here carries a dry, earthy scent, mingled with the faint aroma of distant flora, and a sense of timelessness hangs over the site, as though the very ground itself holds memories of millennia. Tepe Sialk is widely recognized as one of the earliest monumental complexes in Iran, its origins stretching back to the 5th millennium BCE. Excavations have revealed a massive ziggurat, a terraced structure of mud brick that rises in stepped layers, echoing later Mesopotamian forms, but predating them by centuries. Archaeologists have uncovered remnants of residential areas, ceremonial spaces, and workshops, indicating a settlement with social stratification, technical expertise, and cultural complexity. Yet for all that is known, much about Tepe Sialk remains elusive. Its scale, the precision of its construction, and the apparent planning involved in its design challenge simple explanations of what early societies were capable of achieving. How did communities of this period coordinate labor, source materials, and implement architectural techniques that would impress even contemporary engineers? The ziggurat itself is perhaps the most striking feature. Layers of mud brick rise in a stepped formation, their edges remarkably regular, suggesting a knowledge of structural stability and geometric principles that seems advanced for the era. Scholars have speculated that it served a ceremonial or religious purpose, perhaps as a center of ritual or as a link between the terrestrial and the divine. But the evidence is ambiguous, and no inscriptions or records definitively explain its function. Could it have been designed to align with celestial events, to mark solstices or equinoxes? Or was its purpose more symbolic, an assertion of power and permanence by a community seeking to establish itself in an emerging world? Intriguing artifacts unearthed at Tepe Sialk add layers to the mystery. Pottery, tools, and decorative objects demonstrate a surprising degree of sophistication, while some items, such as small, intricately carved figurines and ceremonial vessels, suggest ritual practices that we can only begin to interpret. Certain structural choices, like the orientation of the ziggurat relative to natural features or the arrangement of its internal spaces, raise questions about knowledge that appears ahead of its time. Were these purely functional, or did they encode an understanding of mathematics, astronomy, or cosmology lost to history? The ziggurat's construction also hints at a society capable of long-term planning and collaboration on a scale that is difficult to reconcile with the presumed population size of the era. Moving and shaping immense quantities of mud brick, creating a structure that would endure centuries of erosion and seismic activity, implies not just ingenuity, but also a communal vision. How did these early builders develop such methods without the benefit of written instructions or standardized engineering tools? And why was this particular location chosen, rising subtly above the plains, commanding both a practical view of the surrounding land and a symbolic presence that must have been visible for miles? Speculation has naturally emerged alongside archaeological study. Some researchers propose that Tepe Sialk was part of a broader network of early urban centers in the Iranian plateau, hinting at cultural and technological exchanges that are difficult to trace. Others wonder whether certain features may have served purposes now lost to understanding: rituals, calendrical observations, or even early experiments in urban planning. Local legends and historical records from later periods speak of ancient kings, sacred precincts, and hidden knowledge, reinforcing the sense that this site was far more than a mere settlement. It was a focal point of human ambition, intellect, and belief. Despite decades of excavation, significant portions of Tepe Sialk remain buried beneath centuries of accumulated soil, silently preserving traces of the past. Each uncovered layer hints at lives lived, decisions made, and ideas expressed, yet leaves us with profound questions. How did such early societies conceive of and execute monumental architecture? What knowledge guided them, and how much has been lost to time? The ziggurat stands as a testament to human creativity and determination, an enduring enigma that continues to challenge our assumptions about the capabilities of our distant ancestors. Walking among the terraces today, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing gently against the present. Every worn brick, every carefully aligned wall seems to whisper of ambition, ritual, and curiosity that transcended immediate survival. And yet, for all that we have uncovered, the heart of Tepe Sialk remains elusive, a puzzle that invites reflection. Could there be hidden chambers, ceremonial spaces, or symbolic designs yet to be discovered? What knowledge lies buried beneath these ancient mounds, waiting for a future generation to uncover? The ziggurat remains as it has for thousands of years, silent, imposing, and profoundly mysterious, reminding us that the story of human ingenuity is far deeper and stranger than we often imagine. From the arid plains of Iran, our journey moves across the Balkans, to the rugged hills of North Macedonia, where the Kokino Megalithic Observatory emerges with quiet authority atop a basalt plateau. Rising more than 1,000 meters above sea level, the site commands sweeping views of the surrounding valleys and distant mountain ranges, a natural vantage point that seems almost designed to invite observation. The plateau is dotted with massive weathered stones, their surfaces smoothed by millennia of wind and rain, arranged in patterns that suggest deliberate alignment. As the sun rises or sets, light and shadow sweep across these monoliths in ways that hint at a knowledge of celestial cycles, a subtle interplay between earth and sky that captures the imagination of anyone who visits. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of limestone and wild herbs, and the silence is punctuated only by the distant call of birds, a reminder that this place has long been watched over by the natural world. Archaeologists date Kokino to around 1800 BCE, placing it in the Bronze Age, yet its purpose continues to inspire both fascination and debate. The site is widely described as a megalithic observatory, a place where ancient people could track solar and lunar movements, marking solstices, equinoxes, and other important celestial events. There are stone markers that align precisely with sunrise on the summer solstice, with carefully positioned viewing platforms that offer unobstructed perspectives across the horizon. These features suggest a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, far beyond what might be expected for a society without written records or modern instruments. Could it be that the builders of Kokino possessed knowledge that allowed them to observe and record time with remarkable accuracy, embedding their understanding directly into the landscape? The construction itself raises equally compelling questions. Many of the stones weigh several tons, yet they were positioned with apparent precision, forming natural terraces and observation points that integrate seamlessly with the contours of the plateau. Some stones appear deliberately carved to enhance their function as markers, while others align with distant mountain peaks or unusual geological features, hinting at a broader vision that transcends mere practicality. How did the people of Kokino select, transport, and arrange these massive stones with such accuracy? What tools or techniques might they have employed, and how was this knowledge transmitted through generations? The answers remain elusive, leaving a profound sense of awe at the ingenuity involved. Beyond their practical function, the stones themselves carry an aura of mystery. Some researchers suggest that Kokino may have also served ritual or ceremonial purposes, perhaps as a site where astronomical observation and spiritual practice were intertwined. Local legends and folklore speak of sacred gatherings, of rites timed to the passage of the sun and moon, though no written records survive to confirm these interpretations. Could it be that the site was intended to connect human activity with the rhythms of the cosmos, to anchor society in both time and space? Or is it possible that there were layers of meaning now entirely lost, messages inscribed not in writing, but in stone and horizon? The spatial arrangement of Kokino is striking not only for its functionality, but also for its subtle elegance. Terraces and natural rock formations form pathways, platforms, and markers that seem almost intentional in their irregularity, suggesting an aesthetic sensibility intertwined with scientific observation. Each stone, each natural formation, becomes part of a larger narrative, an outdoor observatory that doubles as a monument to human curiosity and ingenuity. And yet, despite these clues, so much remains unresolved. Some features resist explanation entirely, while others seem to challenge conventional timelines of technological and astronomical development in the Bronze Age Balkans. What cultural forces motivated the construction of such a site? And how did a community with no formal writing system encode knowledge so precisely across a rugged landscape? Even the most advanced methods of modern archaeology, surveying, 3D modeling, and archaeoastronomy, cannot fully answer these questions. Certain alignments are obvious, yet others appear coincidental, leaving researchers to speculate on intent versus chance. Excavations have revealed only fragments of pottery and tools, offering tantalizing hints about the people who built Kokino, but nothing approaching a complete understanding of their society or knowledge system. This interplay between certainty and ambiguity is what gives Kokino its profound, enduring allure. It is both tangible and elusive, a monument of human thought and endeavor that defies simple categorization. Standing today upon the basalt terraces, looking east as the sun begins its ascent over distant peaks, it is impossible not to feel a sense of connection with the people who shaped this place. Their hands moved stones that still endure, their eyes followed the path of the sun and moon as we do, yet so much of their reasoning and purpose remains hidden. Every alignment, every terrace, every carved marker invites reflection. What drove them to undertake this work? Was it purely practical, spiritual, or some combination of both? And what other secrets remain buried beneath the plateau, waiting for time, chance, or careful observation to reveal them? Kokino stands as a silent witness to an ancient intelligence that seems both familiar and distant, a bridge between human curiosity and the cosmos, a reminder that the past often holds far more complexity than we imagine. It challenges our assumptions about what Bronze Age societies could achieve, inspiring questions that remain as open today as they were millennia ago. As shadows lengthen and the wind whispers across the stones, one cannot help but wonder, how much knowledge have we lost, and what messages might still be encoded in the quiet language of stone, sun, and sky? Nestled on the sun-baked plains of southern Cyprus, the Neolithic settlement of Khirokitia rises quietly from the earth, almost as if it has been waiting, untouched and unseen, for millennia. From a distance, the site appears deceptively simple. Circular stone structures clustered together, remnants of walls that once sheltered lives long extinguished. But as one draws nearer, the complexity of the architecture becomes impossible to ignore. Each building is composed of carefully stacked limestone blocks, forming perfect circles or near-perfect ovals, some measuring nearly 6 meters across. The precision is striking, particularly given that the people who built them did so around 7000 BCE, long before the wheel had transformed human transport, or metals had become tools of construction. How did these early settlers manage to carve, transport, and arrange these stones with such accuracy? Walking among the ruins today, it is easy to imagine Khirokitia as a living village. The circular houses, many of which retain traces of their original walls, hint at a highly organized community. Most of these structures are small, often just 1 or 2 rooms, yet they reveal a careful attention to both function and social life. Some buildings appear to have served domestic purposes. Hearths still mark their centers, and small pits suggest food storage. Others might have been communal spaces, perhaps for meetings, ceremonies, or rituals that are lost to time. The houses are often interconnected by narrow pathways, suggesting a village planned with a clear vision rather than a haphazard sprawl. Excavations have revealed even more about daily life at Khirokitia. Skeletal remains, pottery fragments, and tools hint at a community deeply attuned to its environment. Residents hunted wild animals, fished along nearby shores, and cultivated cereals. They crafted clay figurines and pottery decorated with intricate geometric patterns, demonstrating an early sophistication in both artistry and symbolic thought. Yet, for all that we know about their daily existence, mysteries persist. Why did such a seemingly advanced settlement disappear, leaving no direct descendants or written records? What social, environmental, or perhaps inexplicable forces caused this community to vanish entirely from history? The architecture itself raises questions that stir the imagination. The circular design of Khirokitia's houses is strikingly uniform, a shape that would have required careful planning and considerable skill to implement across dozens of dwellings. Some researchers speculate that the circular form had spiritual or practical significance. Perhaps it was more resilient against earthquakes or strong winds, or perhaps it reflected cosmological beliefs or communal values now lost to time. The precision of the stonework, too, is puzzling. Large, heavy stones were cut and fitted together without mortar, and yet many walls have withstood over 9 millennia of erosion, earthquakes, and human interference. Could this level of durability hint at knowledge of structural engineering far ahead of its time? Or is it simply a testament to trial, error, and painstaking effort? Archaeologists have uncovered traces of what might have been ritualistic practices within the village. Certain houses contain peculiar arrangements of stones, small altars, or burials placed beneath the floors. Skeletal analysis shows that some inhabitants were interred in positions that suggest ceremonial intent rather than mere practicality. Did these early Cypriots possess a belief system, a spiritual understanding that guided their architecture and daily practices? Or are we projecting meaning onto patterns that may have been entirely functional? Beyond the mainstream interpretations, more speculative ideas emerge. Some fringe theories suggest that the builders of Khirokitia may have had knowledge or techniques lost to us, potentially linked to unknown sources of wisdom or ancient traditions predating even the Neolithic Revolution. Could the precision and longevity of these stone circles reflect knowledge that was never recorded in writing, perhaps a deep understanding of geometry, astronomy, or natural forces that modern science can barely comprehend. Others propose that sites like Khirokitia may align with a wider network of early human settlements that share architectural or symbolic features, hinting at an ancient, interconnected civilization whose traces have mostly disappeared. While such ideas remain unproven, the sheer ingenuity evident in Khirokitia makes them difficult to dismiss entirely. The village also raises questions about the social dynamics of early human communities. Constructing and maintaining stone houses on this scale would have required cooperation, coordination, and an organized social structure. Did Khirokitia have leaders, planners, or a system of governance that allowed for such cohesive construction? How were resources allocated, labor managed, and conflicts resolved within such a compact, tightly knit village? Each standing wall seems to whisper fragments of a story, a tale of a people who thrived here for centuries, yet left so little that can be definitively explained. Even the environment surrounding Khirokitia contributes to its enduring allure. Situated on a plateau overlooking the Moroni River, the site provided fertile soil, access to fresh water, and abundant resources, yet it is also exposed to harsh winds and shifting climatic conditions. Did environmental changes contribute to the village's abandonment? Or was the departure driven by human factors alone? Perhaps disease, social upheaval, or external threats prompted the villagers to disperse, leaving behind only the silent circular shells of their homes. Or maybe there were other, unknown pressures, forces we cannot now measure or fully understand. As the sun sets over Khirokitia, casting long shadows across its ancient stones, the village seems to hold its secrets just beyond our grasp. Walking among the ruins, one cannot help but feel a profound connection to the lives once lived here, a mixture of admiration, wonder, and unanswerable questions. How much of their knowledge has been lost? What did these early settlers understand about their world that we are only beginning to glimpse through fragments of stone and pottery? Khirokitia endures as a reminder that human ingenuity stretches back far further than most imagine. Yet even in the face of such tangible achievement, a veil of mystery remains. Could there be lessons hidden in the design, the placement, or the enduring precision of these stone houses that we have yet to decipher? Even after centuries of study, Khirokitia refuses to yield all its secrets. The settlement stands as both a testament to human innovation and a lingering enigma, a place where history and speculation intertwine, inviting each observer to wonder, what else might humanity once have known, and what has been lost to the sands of time? Rising from the windswept steppes of the southern Urals, Arkaim presents itself as a circle of mystery etched into the earth. Viewed from above, the settlement is perfectly round, its concentric rings of walls and streets forming a pattern so precise that modern engineers marvel at the ingenuity of its creators. Beneath the endless sky, the surrounding landscape stretches in every direction, rolling grasslands punctuated by low hills. Yet it is Arkaim itself that commands attention, a geometric enigma rising from the vastness of the Russian plain. One cannot help but pause, imagining the hands that laid each stone, the minds that conceived such a design, and the lives lived within these walls nearly 4 millennia ago. Arkaim was discovered only in 1987, buried beneath the earth for thousands of years, yet its revelation shook the academic world. Radiocarbon dating places the settlement at around 2000 BCE, contemporaneous with the early Bronze Age cultures of the Eurasian steppe. But even with this chronological anchor, questions abound. The town was not merely a collection of dwellings. It was a meticulously planned community. Houses are arranged along circular streets, each with entrances oriented in carefully measured directions. The walls themselves, composed of clay and timber, formed defensive enclosures, while the interior layout suggests a deliberate organization for social and communal life. Could a civilization so long ago have possessed knowledge of mathematics and astronomy sufficient to lay out a city with such precision? Excavations have revealed the sophisticated nature of Arkaim's inhabitants. Tools, pottery, and artifacts indicate a culture deeply engaged with both daily survival and complex ritual practice. Evidence of metalworking, particularly bronze, suggests a society that had mastered the early technologies of the age. Remains of hearths, storage pits, and workshops hint at a community attuned to both sustenance and craft, while the circular layout of the houses may reflect symbolic or spiritual beliefs, a reflection of a worldview encoded in stone and clay. The very geometry of Arkaim invites questions that straddle the line between science and speculation. The concentric rings of the settlement, combined with radial streets and precisely aligned entrances, bear the hallmarks of astronomical observation. Some researchers suggest that Arkaim may have functioned as an early observatory, allowing its residents to track solar cycles, seasonal changes, or even celestial events. Could the layout of the settlement have served a dual purpose, both as a home for daily life and as a tool to measure the cosmos? And if so, how much knowledge was embedded in this design that has since been lost to time? Beyond the mainstream interpretations, the site has drawn the attention of those intrigued by more speculative possibilities. Some propose that Arkaim is a remnant of an advanced civilization that predates known history, a culture capable of precision engineering, astronomy, and social organization that rivals much later societies. Others link it to the so-called Aryan myths of ancient Russia, or suggest it is part of a broader network of circular settlements stretching across Eurasia, hinting at cultural or technological transmission far older than conventional scholarship acknowledges. While these ideas remain controversial, the very existence of such a complex and organized settlement in this remote region is undeniably compelling. Arkaim's inhabitants faced a harsh environment, yet they thrived here for generations. The settlement was strategically located near water sources, fertile soil, and natural resources, yet the builders contended with the extremes of steppe life: scorching summers, bitter winters, and unpredictable winds. The walls, carefully constructed and reinforced, provided not only defense, but also an architectural coherence that suggests a deep understanding of both natural forces and communal planning. Was this purely practical, or was there a philosophical or spiritual dimension to the design, a reflection of beliefs now lost to us? Archaeological research has uncovered ritual spaces, suggesting that religion or cosmology played a central role in daily life. Burial practices, altars, and symbolic artifacts indicate that Arkaim was more than a settlement. It was a living reflection of a worldview, a culture in which the alignment of homes, streets, and celestial bodies may have held deep significance. Yet, despite the wealth of material evidence, the ultimate purpose and meaning behind these patterns remain elusive. Were these observatories, sacred spaces, or markers of a sophisticated calendar system? Or could they represent something altogether different, a knowledge encoded in architecture that we are only beginning to glimpse? Even the abandonment of Arkaim adds to its mystique. The settlement appears to have been deserted suddenly, leaving behind a carefully maintained town that was never rebuilt or repurposed. Was it environmental change, conflict, disease, or migration that prompted this departure? Or could the reasons be more enigmatic, tied to societal shifts or rituals we cannot now comprehend? The absence of definitive answers leaves Arkaim suspended in history, a ghostly blueprint of human ingenuity that hints at sophistication beyond what we might expect from this era. As the sun sets over the steppes, casting long shadows across the circular walls, Arkaim exudes a quiet majesty. Standing among the remnants, one is struck by the intelligence, dedication, and vision of its builders, a people who sought not only to shelter themselves, but also to encode knowledge into the very structure of their city. What did they understand about the rhythms of the earth, the motion of the stars, or the patterns of life that we are only beginning to recognize? Arkaim persists as both an archaeological wonder and an enduring enigma, a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder that even in the distant past, civilizations may have been far more advanced than we dare to imagine. For those who wander its ruins, the questions linger. What other secrets might the concentric rings conceal? What knowledge has been lost to time, and what messages might have been intentionally encoded in stone and earth? Arkaim remains a place of wonder and speculation, inviting each observer to peer into the past and ponder not only what was, but what might still be hidden beneath the vast expanse of the Russian steppe. High in the remote Andean foothills of southern Peru, amid rugged cliffs and windswept plains, lies a site both enigmatic and haunting, Aramu Muru. From afar, the rock formation appears deceptively simple, a sheer vertical cliff face, carved with a single imposing doorway that seems to open not into stone, but into the unknown. The entrance is perfectly rectangular, its edges so sharply defined that one cannot help but wonder how human hands, wielding only primitive tools, could have achieved such precision on this scale. The surrounding landscape, rolling hills, distant snow-capped peaks, and winding river valleys, offers little distraction. It is as if nature itself conspires to draw attention to this singular anomaly, inviting contemplation and curiosity in equal measure. Aramu Muru, sometimes referred to as the Gate of the Gods, has long captivated archaeologists, explorers, and locals alike. The site is associated with the Aymara people and their oral traditions, which speak of a sacred doorway, a portal through which one could transcend the ordinary world. The rock itself is a massive piece of volcanic stone, yet the doorway is so finely cut that it almost appears to have been sculpted with advanced tools lost to time. How did the builders of this enigmatic portal achieve such exacting work without the benefit of iron chisels or modern machinery? And why carve a door into a cliff face that leads nowhere visible, offering no interior chamber or corridor? Archaeologists remain cautious, grounding their interpretations in the material evidence. The area shows traces of human activity, ritual deposits, scattered stones, and worn pathways that indicate the site was visited and revered over centuries. Some suggest that Aramu Muru functioned as a ceremonial location, perhaps a place for meditation, offerings, or astronomical observation. The doorway might have served as a symbolic threshold, representing the transition between earthly life and the spiritual realm. Yet even with these plausible explanations, the precision and scale of the carving continue to provoke wonder. The vertical walls are nearly seamless, and the edges of the portal align with a geometric clarity that suggests careful measurement, forethought, and extraordinary skill. The mysteries deepen when considering the cultural and spiritual significance attached to Aramu Muru. Local lore tells of activation rituals, where the doorway was believed to unlock metaphysical journeys, allowing individuals to connect with higher planes of consciousness. Pilgrims and seekers have described intense experiences within the portal's frame, from altered perceptions to sensations of energy or movement beyond the physical. Are these accounts simply symbolic interpretations, psychological responses to the dramatic setting, or could they hint at a deeper understanding encoded by the site's creators? While science offers no definitive answers, the consistency of these traditions over generations adds weight to the sense that Aramu Muru was more than mere stone. It was, and perhaps still is, a threshold in both material and metaphysical terms. Some researchers propose connections between Aramu Muru and the broader network of Andean ceremonial sites. Its proximity to ancient trade routes, agricultural terraces, and other ritual locations suggests it may have been part of a coordinated landscape of sacred geography. Could the portal align with solar or lunar cycles, or with specific constellations, serving as a marker of time or cosmic significance. The sharp angles and symmetry of the doorway invite comparisons to other pre-Columbian engineering feats, yet Aramu Muru's solitary, cliff-bound nature sets it apart, leaving questions of purpose and origin unresolved. Fringe theories, though speculative, have also surrounded the site. Some suggest the doorway may have been intended as a literal portal, a gateway to other dimensions or realms, a concept echoed in local myth and modern esoteric interpretations. Others propose that the precision of the cut indicates knowledge of advanced stoneworking techniques lost over millennia, perhaps evidence of a forgotten civilization or a local mastery of tools and geometry beyond conventional understanding. While these ideas cannot be verified, the very existence of such an anomalous structure in a relatively isolated location fuels ongoing fascination. The natural environment of Aramu Muru itself adds to the sense of wonder. The Andean winds sweep across the plateau, carrying the scent of high-altitude grasses and distant forests. Sunlight plays across the doorway at different times of day, casting long, shifting shadows that transform the stone's appearance. From dawn to dusk, the portal seems to pulse with an almost imperceptible energy, drawing the eye, the mind, and the imagination. How much of the site's power derives from human intention and how much from its natural setting remains an open question, a delicate interplay between culture and environment, perception and reality. Visiting Aramu Muru today, one is struck by the silence of the high plateau, broken only by wind and bird calls. Standing before the doorway, the mind naturally searches for meaning, for practical explanations, for a story that fits neatly within the boundaries of history. And yet, the site refuses to yield its secrets fully. It is as if the stone itself holds its history close, allowing glimpses, but never full disclosure. The craftsmanship, the setting, and the enduring cultural significance converge to form a monument that is as much a question as it is a statement. As shadows lengthen and the Andes glow in the dying light, the doorway of Aramu Muru stands as a quiet challenge to the imagination. Who carved this portal, and why? What knowledge or beliefs shaped its creation? Was it a ceremonial gateway, an astronomical tool, or something altogether more mysterious? Perhaps the answers lie hidden, waiting for patient exploration, for a perspective that has yet to be discovered. Or perhaps the true purpose of Aramu Muru is not to be known in conventional terms, but to inspire wonder, reflection, and the eternal human desire to seek what lies beyond the threshold. And so, the cliff face remains, silent and immovable, a monument to human ingenuity, faith, and mystery. One cannot help but ask, what else might be hidden in these ancient landscapes carved into stone, lost to time, or waiting for the world to notice once more? Perched on a gentle hill in Thessaly, northern Greece, the ancient settlement of Sesklo unfolds like a whisper from the distant past. From a distance, the ruins appear unassuming, low mounds of earth, faint outlines of walls, and scattered stones. But a closer examination reveals a site of remarkable sophistication. Sesklo is not merely an archaeological curiosity. It is one of the earliest known organized villages in Europe, its origins tracing back to the Neolithic era around 6000 BCE. The settlement's remains offer a window into the lives of people who shaped their environment with skill, creativity, and purpose, long before the rise of civilizations more commonly recognized in textbooks. Walking among the remnants of Sesklo, one is struck by the layout of the settlement. Houses are constructed of clay and stone, some of them rectangular, others irregular, yet all reveal careful planning. Narrow pathways wind between the dwellings, suggesting a community mindful of order, circulation, and perhaps social hierarchy. Some structures include features that appear functional: hearths, storage areas, and platforms. Yet they also carry an aesthetic or symbolic quality, indicating a culture that valued both utility and expression. How did a community of this period, without advanced tools or writing, conceive of such a well-organized village? What inspired the choice of layout, the positioning of homes, and the shaping of spaces where daily life unfolded? Archaeological excavations have revealed that Sesklo's inhabitants were not merely subsistence farmers. The presence of finely crafted pottery, decorated with geometric patterns and occasionally painted, points to an early appreciation for art and symbolism. Flint tools, bone implements, and remnants of woven textiles suggest a population skilled in a variety of crafts, able to manipulate their environment with ingenuity. These discoveries illustrate a culture that was not only surviving but thriving, adapting to its surroundings while establishing a recognizable social and cultural identity. Yet, for all that we know about Sesklo's material culture, questions linger. What beliefs, customs, or knowledge guided the construction of this settlement? Why did this community flourish here, and what circumstances eventually led to its decline? The architecture itself offers subtle clues to a society deeply connected to both practical and possibly ritual considerations. Some houses contain multiple rooms or partitions, while others are simpler, perhaps reflecting variations in family size, status, or function. Archaeologists have noted traces of fortifications and elevated platforms, suggesting awareness of security and perhaps communal governance. Yet the settlement also seems designed for harmony with its surroundings. The choice of the hilltop location provided natural drainage, defensibility, and advantage over the fertile plain below. Could these choices reflect not only pragmatism, but also an understanding of principles we now describe as urban planning, or even a symbolic relationship between people and landscape? Intriguingly, Sesklo may have been part of an early cultural continuum that shaped the development of the region for centuries. The settlement predates and possibly influenced nearby Dimini, another Neolithic site with similar architecture and ceremonial markers. Connections between these sites suggest networks of trade, communication, and cultural exchange, an early form of societal interconnection that challenges the notion of isolated, primitive villages. Yet the exact nature of these interactions, and the knowledge exchanged, remains largely speculative. What ideas, techniques, or beliefs traveled between these communities, and how were they transmitted across generations? Some scholars propose that Sesklo's inhabitants may have possessed knowledge or practices that remain underappreciated in mainstream narratives of prehistory. The precision of their constructions, the apparent planning of streets and communal spaces, and the sophistication of their pottery hint at cognitive capacities and cultural expressions far ahead of what might be expected for the time. Could these achievements suggest an advanced understanding of social organization, spatial reasoning, or symbolic communication that we are only beginning to recognize? Or were they simply the cumulative result of long observation, experimentation, and adaptation to their environment? Speculative interpretations, though unverified, have captured the imagination of many. Some suggest that Sesklo may have served as a ritual or ceremonial center. Its elevated position, compact layout, and central pathways designed to align with celestial or seasonal phenomena. Others hint at possible esoteric knowledge encoded in the geometry of the settlement, an understanding of cycles, patterns, or energies that modern observers can glimpse only dimly. While such ideas remain conjecture, the very existence of such an organized, enduring settlement from 8,000 years ago challenges assumptions about the capabilities of Neolithic societies. Sesklo also raises questions about resilience and transformation. The settlement endured for centuries, yet eventually it was abandoned, leaving behind a layered landscape of ruins and memories. Did environmental pressures, social shifts, or external threats precipitate this decline? Or did changes in belief systems, resource use, or cultural priorities lead the inhabitants to move elsewhere? The answers remain elusive, leaving the site as a testament to both human ingenuity and the impermanence of even the most carefully constructed communities. Standing atop the hill where Sesklo once thrived, one can see the surrounding plains stretch endlessly, a landscape that has changed little in millennia. The wind carries whispers of the past, as if the stones themselves remember the rhythm of daily life. Meals prepared, tools shaped, stories told, and children played. The village endures as a subtle, powerful reminder that human creativity and organization did not begin with the great civilizations of Mesopotamia or Egypt, but was present in these earliest European communities, quietly shaping the trajectory of history. And yet, Sesklo leaves us with questions that remain unanswered. What motivated these early architects, planners, and artisans to create a settlement of such sophistication? How much knowledge, skill, and cultural insight has been lost over thousands of years? As we trace the outlines of walls and pathways, as we touch the worn stones and study the remnants of homes and pottery, we are left with an enduring sense of wonder. What else might have existed here that we have yet to uncover, and what lessons lie hidden within the quiet genius of this ancient settlement? Rising from the rugged hills of Zacatecas, Mexico, La Quemada stretches across a barren plateau, its stone terraces and walls silhouetted against the vast, arid landscape. From a distance, the site seems almost otherworldly, a labyrinth of platforms, stairways, and pyramidal structures etched into the earth, remnants of a civilization that thrived long before written history chronicled the Americas. The settlement's name, La Quemada, or the Burned One, evokes a sense of mystery and loss, hinting at events buried in time and shrouded in speculation. Walking among the ruins, one is immediately struck by the scale and precision of the construction, a deliberate layout that suggests both functionality and ceremonial intent. La Quemada was occupied roughly between 500 and 1000 CE, during a period that saw the rise of complex societies in Mesoamerica. Yet the site defies easy categorization. Its architectural style shares elements with contemporaneous cultures such as the Toltecs and the Teotihuacan civilization. But it remains distinct, an isolated testimony to ingenuity and organization on the northern edge of Mesoamerica. The city is built across several levels, connected by steep stairways and retaining walls that contour the natural terrain. Some structures are flat-topped platforms, others are pyramidal, while a central plaza suggests a communal or ceremonial heart of the settlement. How did the builders manage such precision and scale without modern surveying tools? How did they transport massive stones and align them with such care across steep, uneven terrain? Archaeological investigations have revealed clues about daily life and social structure at La Quemada. Evidence of housing, storage areas, and defensive walls suggests a community that was both self-sustaining and prepared for conflict. Pottery fragments, obsidian tools, and ceremonial objects point to trade, craft specialization, and spiritual practice. Yet much of the settlement's purpose remains uncertain. Scholars debate whether La Quemada served primarily as a defensive stronghold, a religious center, a trading hub, or some combination of these roles. Could it have been a city of refuge during times of regional upheaval, or was its placement atop the plateau motivated by cosmological or ritual considerations, a site designed to commune with the heavens as much as to command the land below? The defensive nature of La Quemada is evident in its walls and strategic terraces, which suggest a society keenly aware of threats. Steep stairways, high platforms, and fortified perimeters indicate planning and foresight, yet the settlement was eventually abandoned, leaving its stone structures exposed to centuries of erosion and decay. What forces led to this desertion? Were environmental pressures, drought, resource depletion, or soil exhaustion responsible? Or did social or political turmoil force the inhabitants to leave? abandoning a city that had been carefully constructed over generations? The answer remains elusive, leaving the site suspended in time, a monument both to human ingenuity and to unanswered questions. La Quemada also hints at spiritual and ceremonial significance. Certain platforms appear deliberately oriented, and some walls bear traces of carvings or symbolic markings, suggesting ritual activity. Some researchers speculate that these alignments could relate to solar or lunar cycles, marking seasonal changes essential for agricultural planning or religious observances. Could the settlement's designers have possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, encoding it in the city's architecture in ways that remain only partially deciphered? The precision of the structures, coupled with their strategic placement on the plateau, invites contemplation. Was La Quemada conceived as a center of power, a sacred observatory, or both? Fringe theories have long flourished around La Quemada, fueled by its dramatic location and enigmatic design. Some suggest it may have been linked to distant Mesoamerican centers, a northern outpost of cultural exchange, or even the remnant of an advanced civilization whose knowledge has been lost. Others propose more speculative interpretations, hinting at ritual gateways, lost technologies, or esoteric practices encoded in the alignment of walls and terraces. While these ideas remain unproven, the settlement's isolation, sophistication, and apparent abrupt abandonment make such theories difficult to dismiss entirely. The environment surrounding La Quemada enhances its aura of mystery. From the plateau, one can gaze across the arid landscape, seeing little but hills, valleys, and the faint traces of ancient trails. The wind sweeps across the terraces, carrying the echoes of a long-gone civilization. Sunlight and shadow transform the structures throughout the day, accentuating the geometry of stairways and platforms, and at sunset, the entire site glows with an almost sacred intensity. Standing there, it is easy to imagine the lives of those who once inhabited this remote city. Families tending crops, priests conducting ceremonies, guards watching from terraces, all under the gaze of the same sun and moon we observe today. La Quemada's mysteries extend beyond its structures and location. Its name, the Burned One, evokes possibilities both literal and metaphorical. Did fire play a role in the city's destruction or abandonment? Or is the name a later attribution, a symbolic reflection of its enigmatic aura? Were the terraces and stairways purely functional, or did they encode hidden knowledge, principles of mathematics, astronomy, or spiritual significance now lost? Each stone seems to whisper questions that cannot be fully answered, challenging the observer to reconcile evidence with imagination, fact with speculation. As shadows stretch across the ancient walls and terraces, La Quemada stands as both testament and enigma, a place where human ingenuity, ritual, and mystery converge. Who planned and built this settlement with such precision and intent? What knowledge, beliefs, or skills guided its construction and orientation? And what truths, buried in time and stone, might still lie hidden beneath its terraces, waiting to be discovered? La Quemada endures, inviting contemplation, reflection, and a recognition that even in regions we think we know, the past can still surprise and confound us. Carved into the rugged cliffs of the Gobustan Peninsula, overlooking the Caspian Sea, lies one of the most extraordinary records of prehistoric human life in Eurasia, the rock art of Gobustan. From a distance, the cliffs rise stark and weathered, their surfaces etched with countless grooves, lines, and figures that shimmer subtly under the sun. At first glance, they appear abstract, almost accidental, yet closer inspection reveals an intricate tapestry of human expression, frozen across millennia. Thousands of petroglyphs, depictions of hunters, animals, celestial symbols, and enigmatic geometric shapes, tell stories of a world long vanished, offering tantalizing glimpses of how early humans perceived themselves and the forces surrounding them. The carvings date back as far as 10,000 years, spanning a remarkable chronology from the Upper Paleolithic through the Mesolithic and into the Bronze Age. Gobustan is unique not only for the sheer quantity of rock art, but also for its diversity. Images of aurochs, deer, and wild goats mingle with human figures wielding weapons or engaged in ritual activity, while abstract motifs and circular symbols hint at a symbolic or spiritual understanding that remains elusive. What prompted these early inhabitants to leave such a lasting mark upon stone? Were these carvings practical records of daily life, ritual expressions of belief, or something far more profound, messages intended to transcend the limitations of time itself? The precision and placement of many petroglyphs raise intriguing questions. Some figures are carved with remarkable detail, showing musculature, movement, and even indications of clothing or ornamentation. Others are deliberately positioned along the contours of the rock, suggesting an intentional interplay with light and shadow, or perhaps a symbolic orientation toward the rising sun, the path of the stars, or seasonal markers. Did these ancient artists possess a sophisticated understanding of astronomy or geometry, embedding knowledge in their art that we are only beginning to interpret? Or were these choices purely aesthetic or ritualistic, reflecting a worldview radically different from our own? Gobustan was not merely a canvas. It was a living environment for human communities for thousands of years. Archaeological excavations have uncovered settlements, hearths, and tools, providing evidence of hunting, herding, and early agricultural practices. The region's rivers, fertile valleys, and proximity to the Caspian Sea made it a strategic and sustaining landscape. Yet, despite this evidence, the rock art stands apart, enigmatic and often inexplicable. Why did these early humans devote so much time and labor to carving stone faces when other forms of expression, wood, bone, or perishable materials, would have sufficed? Perhaps the permanence of stone, its resistance to time, was a deliberate choice, a way to communicate with the distant future, or to anchor sacred or social knowledge in the landscape itself. Many of the petroglyphs depict hunting scenes and animals, yet there are also abstract and geometric forms, spirals, circles, and intersecting lines, that resist easy interpretation. Could these symbols represent early forms of writing, mathematical concepts, or spiritual codices now lost to us? Some researchers suggest that certain motifs may align with astronomical phenomena, linking the human and cosmic realms in ways we can only speculate upon. Others propose that these carvings reflect shamanic practices, trance rituals, or altered states of consciousness, encoded in stone as a permanent testament to mystical experiences. The truth may be a combination of many factors, yet the intentionality and sophistication of the carvings remain undeniable. Gobustan also challenges our understanding of the cultural and technological capabilities of its creators. The tools used to carve such precise imagery were simple, yet the resulting work exhibits an understanding of proportion, perspective, and spatial organization that is remarkable for the period. Could these techniques reflect knowledge passed down through generations, honed into an art form that conveyed both practical and symbolic meaning? And if so, what else might have been transmitted in these carvings? Ideas, rituals, or knowledge we have no other record of? The location itself adds to the mystery. Perched atop cliffs that offer sweeping views of the surrounding plains and the Caspian, the site has a commanding presence. The choice of rock faces, the alignment of carvings, and the sheer effort required to inscribe into hard stone suggest that these images were far more than casual decoration. They speak to intentionality, reverence, and perhaps a desire to leave a lasting mark on the world. A message written not in words, but in symbols, waiting for future eyes to perceive and interpret. Even today, Gobustan continues to inspire awe. Standing before the carvings, one is struck by the sense of connection across time, the realization that people thousands of years ago paused to reflect, observe, and record their experiences in a language carved of stone. Yet with this connection comes a profound awareness of mystery. So much of their world, their intentions, and their understanding remains inaccessible. What drove them to create these images? What knowledge, beliefs, or experiences do the symbols encode? And how many stories have been lost, eroded by wind, rain, and the passage of millennia? As the light shifts across the cliff faces, casting deep shadows into the grooves of the carvings, Gobustan stands as a silent testament to human creativity, intelligence, and curiosity. The petroglyphs invite us to ponder not only the lives of those who created them, but also the enduring questions about the limits of knowledge, the origins of culture, and the ways humans have sought to leave a mark upon the world. Could there be meanings in the rock yet undiscovered, insights about early human cognition or spirituality that remain hidden to this day? In the quiet of Gobustan, the past seems alive, urging the observer to look closer, wonder more deeply, and acknowledge that the mysteries carved into stone endure far beyond the reach of time. Perched on a wind-swept ridge overlooking the rugged coastline of Brittany, France, the Cairn of Barnenez rises as a monumental testament to human ambition and ingenuity. From afar, it appears as a low, sprawling mound of stone, blending almost seamlessly with the natural contours of the landscape. Yet, as one approaches, the enormity and complexity of the structure becomes undeniable. Composed of hundreds of massive stones carefully arranged into a vast megalithic tomb, the cairn stretches over 70 meters in length and reaches heights exceeding 8 meters in places. Its scale and endurance are remarkable, especially considering it was constructed over 6,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest known stone monuments in Europe. How did people of the Neolithic era organize, transport, and assemble stones of such size with only rudimentary tools? And what compelled them to build not just a tomb, but a labyrinthine complex that would endure for millennia? The Cairn of Barnenez is more than a burial site. It is a masterwork of prehistoric engineering. Inside its thick walls lie multiple chambers, each constructed from enormous slabs and arranged in intricate sequences. Some chambers are aligned with precision, others connected by narrow passages, forming a complex interior that defies simple explanation. Excavations have revealed human remains, pottery, and carved stones, yet the purpose of these chambers, and the reasoning behind their arrangement, remains only partially understood. Did the builders intend these chambers for ritualistic purposes, as sacred spaces for the deceased, or as a monument to societal cohesion, a shared labor that bound the community together? The meticulous craftsmanship suggests both spiritual and practical considerations, yet the deeper meanings may have been lost to time. The scale of the cairn also provokes questions about the social and organizational structures of its builders. Coordinating the labor to quarry, transport, and position stones weighing several tons would have required careful planning, cooperation, and perhaps a form of leadership or governance that we can scarcely imagine. What motivated such coordinated effort? Was it reverence for the dead, a desire to mark territory, or an expression of cosmological knowledge encoded in stone? Archaeologists have noted that the cairn's orientation may correspond with celestial events, such as the winter solstice, hinting that the builders were not only engineers, but also keen observers of the sky. Could the alignment of chambers and passageways have been intended to capture sunlight or shadows at specific times of the year, symbolically connecting the living and the dead to the rhythms of the cosmos? Beyond these practical and ceremonial interpretations, the cairn invites more speculative questions. Some researchers suggest that sites like Barnenez reflect a sophisticated understanding of geometry and acoustics, a knowledge rarely attributed to Neolithic societies. The careful placement of stones, the proportion of chambers, and the interplay of enclosed spaces all point to intentional design choices that may have conveyed meaning, preserved knowledge, or enhanced ritual practices. Could the builders have understood principles of sound, light, or vibration that added another dimension to their ceremonies? And if so, what has been lost to us over 6 millennia of silence and erosion? The cairn's location amplifies its mystery. Perched high on a ridge overlooking the sea, it commands a sweeping view of the surrounding landscape, a vantage point that is both strategic and symbolic. Was its position chosen to assert dominance over the region, to mark sacred land, or to serve as a beacon for travelers and future generations? From this vantage, one can imagine the builders observing the shifting tides, the patterns of the sun and moon, and the migrations of animals, each movement potentially imbued with significance. The interaction between the natural environment and the monument itself suggests a culture deeply attuned to its surroundings, capable of harmonizing practical needs with spiritual or symbolic expression. Inside the cairn, the atmosphere is palpable, a mixture of awe and quiet reflection. The chambers, though narrow and stone-bound, convey a sense of permanence, a deliberate contrast to the transience of human life. The builders of Barnenez worked not just with stone, but with time itself, crafting a monument meant to endure, to witness generations that would follow. What rituals took place here? What beliefs guided the careful placement of each slab? Were these spaces intended to house only the physical remains of the deceased, or did they serve as vessels for memory, history, and the intangible connections between life, death, and the cosmos? The cairn's endurance over millennia invites contemplation of both human ingenuity and the mysteries that survive alongside it. Many stones show evidence of carving and shaping, yet the techniques employed remain uncertain, the tools lost to history. Did these early builders rely solely on brute force and simple levers, or were there methods and knowledge that have vanished with their creators? Even the very fact that the structure remains largely intact, weathering storms, erosion, and centuries of human interference, speaks to a mastery of construction that continues to astonish modern engineers and archaeologists alike. As the wind sweeps across the ridge and the Atlantic light shifts across the cairn's rough-hewn surfaces, the cairn of Barnenez speaks in silence. It is a monument of labor, devotion, and mystery, a place where human ambition met the raw challenges of nature, leaving a lasting imprint. Yet for all that we have learned, so much remains unanswered. Why this particular form, this particular location, and this particular arrangement of chambers? How much knowledge, belief, or tradition has been encoded within the cairn, now obscured by time? And what other secrets of Neolithic ingenuity, ritual, and cosmology remain hidden, waiting for the patient eye to discern them among the stones? Barnenez endures, a sentinel of memory and enigma, reminding us that human history is not always linear, and that the depth of early human creativity often surpasses what we imagine possible. Even today, it challenges us to look closer, to wonder, and to acknowledge that some mysteries, like the stones themselves, may endure forever. Nestled within the sun-baked hills of the Peloponnese, the Mycenaean Lesser Tholos tombs emerge as silent sentinels of a civilization both grand and enigmatic. From afar, these stone-built beehive structures, some half buried in the earth, others standing boldly against the rugged landscape, exude an aura of solemnity, a quiet testament to lives and customs long vanished. Their smooth, curving walls, meticulously constructed with cut stones arranged in corbelled layers, form near-perfect domes that seem almost impossible for an ancient people to achieve. As one approaches, the entrance, a narrow dromos leading into the tomb's heart, draws the eye, inviting reflection on the rituals, beliefs, and social structures that guided the Mycenaeans thousands of years ago. How did these builders, without the aid of modern cranes or surveying equipment, create such enduring architecture with astonishing precision? And what motivated them to invest so much time and skill into spaces devoted to the dead rather than the living? The lesser Tholos tombs, while smaller than the grand monumental tombs like the treasury of Atreus, are no less remarkable in their design or purpose. Constructed between the 16th and 12th centuries BCE, these tombs served as burial places for elite individuals and their families, providing a glimpse into the hierarchical society of the Mycenaeans. The corbelled domes, sometimes rising to heights of several meters, reveal not only architectural ingenuity but also a profound understanding of weight distribution, stone cutting, and spatial engineering. Each tomb is a calculated fusion of form and function, capable of withstanding centuries of environmental stress, yet designed to honor the human life enclosed within. Was this meticulous design purely practical, ensuring the tomb's longevity, or did it carry symbolic meaning, perhaps reflecting cosmological principles, spiritual beliefs, or societal status encoded in stone? Archaeological excavations of these tombs have uncovered a wealth of artifacts that illuminate the culture, wealth, and rituals of their inhabitants. Pottery, jewelry, weapons, and ceremonial items have been found within the chambers, carefully arranged or placed as offerings. Skeletal remains suggest a society deeply concerned with lineage, inheritance, and the sanctity of the family. Yet, despite these findings, questions linger. How did the Mycenaeans select the locations for these tombs, often situated on hilltops or along strategic ridges overlooking the landscape? Were these placements purely defensive, meant to mark territory, or were they guided by a spiritual or cosmological framework, connecting the living with the dead, the earthly realm with the divine? The architecture itself hints at a sophisticated blend of engineering and symbolism. The corbelled technique allowed for domes without the use of mortar, creating stable and enduring spaces that still stand millennia later. The narrow entrances, sometimes flanked by monolithic lintels, create a transition from the world of the living to the realm of the dead, emphasizing both physical and psychological separation. Could these design choices reflect more than functional needs? Might the builders have intended the tombs to serve as conduits between worlds, spaces where ritual, memory, and cosmic alignment intersected in ways we can only speculate upon? Beyond the structural marvels, the lesser Tholos tombs evoke deeper mysteries about Mycenaean society and their knowledge. The precision of stone placement, the symmetry of the domes, and the integration of tombs into the natural landscape suggest advanced planning and a keen understanding of geometry and material properties. Did the Mycenaeans possess knowledge or techniques that have since been lost? Were the tombs aligned with celestial phenomena, seasons, or ritual calendars, encoding in stone a sophisticated awareness of time and the cosmos? And if so, what has been lost to history, obscured by centuries of collapse, looting, or erosion? Speculative interpretations, while unproven, add to the aura of intrigue. Some scholars have proposed that the tombs were not merely resting places for the dead, but also ceremonial centers for rituals connected to fertility, renewal, or communication with the divine. Others suggest that certain tombs, through their orientation, proportions, or placement, might have been part of a broader network reflecting social, political, or even astronomical hierarchies within Mycenaean culture. While such ideas remain conjectural, they underscore the enduring sense that these structures were conceived with far more than utilitarian purpose in mind. The tomb's location and enduring presence amplify their sense of mystery. Many overlook valleys, rivers, or fertile plains, offering commanding views of the surrounding terrain. From this vantage, One can imagine the living communities below, engaging in trade, agriculture, and ceremony, while the tombs stood as perpetual reminders of ancestry, authority, and spiritual continuity. Did the placement serve to inspire reverence, instill social cohesion, or signal territorial claims? Or was it designed to maintain a connection between the living and the ancestors, linking the earthly and spiritual realms in ways we can only glimpse through the stones themselves? Even today, stepping into the cool, shadowed interior of a lesser Tholos tomb is a humbling experience. The corbelled ceiling rises overhead, the walls echo with silence, and the space resonates with the weight of human history. One can almost imagine the rituals performed here, the careful placement of offerings, the solemn procession of mourners, the prayers whispered into the stone. Yet for all its grandeur and sophistication, the tomb keeps many secrets. What guided the Mycenaeans' architectural choices? What spiritual or societal insights are encoded in these spaces? And what knowledge, skill, or belief has vanished with the people who built them, leaving us only with stone as witness? The Lesser Tholos. Tombs endure, inviting contemplation, study, and wonder. They are monuments to human ingenuity, devotion, and the capacity to imbue stone with meaning beyond mere function. And as we gaze upon these corbelled domes, silent on the hills of Greece, one cannot help but wonder, what else lies hidden in the Mycenaean landscape, and what messages, carefully etched into stone, have yet to be deciphered by the eyes of the living? Rising from the semi-arid plains of Guanajuato, Mexico, the Cañada de la Virgen complex emerges as a quiet marvel of ancient engineering and cosmological vision. From afar, the site appears as a cluster of stone platforms and stepped pyramids, arranged with an elegance that draws the eye and invites curiosity. The surrounding landscape stretches into rolling hills and arid valleys, yet the settlement commands attention, its geometry and orientation marking it as a place of profound human intention. The stones themselves, worn by centuries of sun and wind, hold a silent testimony to the people who carved, shaped, and assembled them thousands of years ago. How did these builders, without metal tools or modern surveying instruments, achieve such precise alignment and enduring construction? And what knowledge guided them in selecting this particular location atop a natural rise that dominates the surrounding terrain? Cañada de la Virgen, inhabited roughly between 540 and 1050 CE, represents the ingenuity and sophistication of the Otomi Chichimeca culture. Unlike the sprawling urban centers of central Mexico, this settlement appears deliberately compact, its structures integrated with the natural contours of the land. The site includes pyramidal temples, platforms, and altars arranged in a manner that suggests both social organization and ritual intent. Archaeological evidence points to ceremonial use, but the exact nature of these practices remains largely speculative. Was the settlement primarily a religious center, a cosmological observatory, or a site where political power and spiritual authority intersected? The precision and care in the layout suggest more than mere functional occupation. It speaks to a culture deeply attuned to the rhythms of the cosmos and the cycles of the earth. One of the most striking features of Cañada de la Virgen is its astronomical alignment. Researchers have noted that the central structures correspond with significant solar and lunar events. During the summer solstice, the sunrise illuminates specific platforms, while lunar positions appear to have guided the orientation of key buildings. These alignments hint at a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, encoded in stone long before the advent of written records. Could this knowledge have been transmitted orally, passed down from generation to generation? Or was it encoded in ritual practice, embedded in the very movement of the sun and moon across the horizon? The thought that an ancient society could integrate astronomical precision with ceremonial architecture invites reflection on the depth of knowledge possessed by these early cultures. Excavations at the site have uncovered evidence of domestic life, burial practices, and ritual deposits. Ceramic fragments, figurines, and obsidian tools point to a complex society engaged in craft, trade, and religious observance. Some chambers and platforms contain remains arranged in ways that suggest ceremonial significance, hinting at beliefs surrounding death, the afterlife, or the relationship between humanity and the cosmos. Yet despite these findings, much remains mysterious. Why were these particular hills chosen? How were the buildings constructed with such accuracy? And what was the symbolic or spiritual meaning encoded in the careful positioning of each platform and altar? The design of Quemada de la Virgin also emphasizes geometric harmony. Rectangular and circular platforms coexist in a careful balance, and stairways connect the various levels with an intentional rhythm, guiding movement across the complex. The orientation and proportions of the structures imply a knowledge of symmetry, proportion, and perspective that continues to intrigue researchers. Could these choices reflect purely practical considerations, or do they also suggest a symbolic framework, a way of mapping cosmic or spiritual principles onto the earthly plane? The integration of geometry and astronomy at Quemada de la Virgin raises the possibility that the settlement was more than a ritual center. It may have functioned as a living calendar, a tool for predicting seasonal cycles critical to agriculture and ceremonial timing. Some scholars have speculated further, noting that the alignment of structures, their orientation to natural features, and the presence of ritual deposits suggest an advanced understanding of both environmental and celestial patterns. Others propose that the site may have been designed as a sacred landscape, where movement between platforms mirrored spiritual journeys, connecting the physical and metaphysical realms. While these ideas remain speculative, the deliberate precision of the settlement cannot be dismissed. Quemada de la Virgin embodies an intricate interplay between environment, architecture, and ritual that reflects a culture both practical and profoundly spiritual. The natural setting amplifies the site's mystery. Standing atop the pyramidal platforms, one can see the surrounding valleys stretch endlessly, a horizon framed by distant hills and the rising sun. Wind sweeps across the stone, carrying the quiet whispers of a civilization long gone. Sunlight, filtered through the contours of the platforms, shifts with the seasons, illuminating spaces in ways that seem almost intentional, choreographed across time. How much of this was planned by the builders, and how much is a serendipitous gift of geography? And what other features of the landscape, now eroded, obscured, or lost, might once have contributed to the settlement's function as a ceremonial or astronomical center? As the day fades and shadows stretch across the terraces, Quemada de la Virgin stands as a testament to human ingenuity, devotion, and the desire to comprehend the cosmos. It is a place where stone, sky, and ritual intersect, leaving a record of a people who observed, measured, and celebrated the rhythms of the natural world. And yet, for all its precision and enduring presence, the site poses enduring questions. How much knowledge has been lost to time? What aspects of ritual, astronomy, or symbolism remain hidden beneath layers of earth and centuries of silence? The answers, if they exist, remain elusive, waiting for careful eyes, patient minds, and respectful inquiry to discern what might still lie concealed in the stones of this remarkable complex. Deep within the dense, humid jungles of Chiapas, Mexico, the ancient city of Yaxchilan rests along the meandering banks of the Usumacinta River. While its monumental temples and grand plazas often dominate attention, it is the lesser structures scattered throughout the site that offer a more intimate, yet equally compelling glimpse into the sophistication and enigma of this Maya city. From a distance, these smaller buildings appear almost hidden, half obscured by thick foliage, their stone walls weathered and softened by centuries of growth and erosion. Yet they hold a quiet, almost subtle power, revealing the rhythm of daily life, the intricacies of ritual practice, and the architectural ingenuity of a civilization whose mastery continues to astonish modern observers. The lesser structures of Yaxchilan, often overshadowed by their towering neighbors, were constructed between the 4th and 9th centuries CE, during the height of the classic Maya civilization. Unlike the grandiose temples built to honor kings or gods, these smaller buildings were likely multi-purpose: residences for nobles or priests, administrative spaces, ceremonial rooms, and workshops. Despite their modest scale, they exhibit remarkable craftsmanship. Doorways are framed with carefully cut stone, lintels are adorned with carved reliefs depicting mythological scenes, and interiors demonstrate precise planning, often organized around central courtyards or plazas. How did the Maya manage such attention to detail, integrating functionality, symbolism, and artistry into structures meant for everyday use, yet also infused with ritual significance? Walking among the lesser structures, one notices the deliberate orientation of buildings. Many align with natural features such as the river or surrounding hills, while others appear carefully positioned to interact with light and shadow at specific times of the year. Certain doorways capture the first rays of dawn on solstices or equinoxes, illuminating carvings in ways that suggest a deep understanding of astronomy and ritual timing. Could these alignments have served practical purposes, such as agricultural calendars, or were they primarily spiritual, designed to synchronize the built environment with celestial cycles? And if such knowledge was employed in smaller, seemingly mundane buildings, what might it imply about the broader intellectual and spiritual life of Yaxchilan? Archaeological studies of these structures have uncovered evidence of everyday activity. Ceramics, obsidian tools, and food remnants suggest cooking, crafting, and domestic life. Yet interspersed among these traces are objects of ritual significance: figurines, ceremonial vessels, and intricate carvings depicting scenes of sacrifice, rulership, or mythic events. This blending of the mundane with the sacred raises questions about the integration of religion into daily existence. Were the Maya conceiving of these buildings as sacred spaces regardless of their apparent function, or was the spiritual woven seamlessly into everyday life in a way that modern observers struggle to fully understand? The architectural techniques themselves are striking. Masonry is precise, with stones carefully cut and fitted without mortar, demonstrating both patience and skill. The structures often incorporate corbelled vaulting, recessed doorways, and multiple levels, all achieved without the benefit of metal tools or cranes. Some walls bear glyphs, painted or carved, offering insights into events, rulers, or cosmology, though many remain undeciphered. How much knowledge, mathematical, astronomical, and artistic, was necessary to conceive and execute even these lesser structures? And what, if any, secrets remain hidden in their designs, waiting for modern techniques or fresh insight to reveal their purpose? The surroundings of the lesser structures contribute to their enigmatic quality. Dense jungle encroaches upon stone walls, roots twist through masonry, and the ever-present river shapes both the ecology and the strategic positioning of buildings. The Maya seemed attuned to these environmental factors, integrating water sources, elevation, and natural contours into their city planning. Could these choices reflect a practical understanding of landscape management, or were they part of a more symbolic worldview, aligning human activity with nature's patterns? And what role did the lesser structures play in facilitating observation, ritual, or governance within this complex ecosystem? Speculative interpretations further deepen the intrigue. Some researchers suggest that these smaller buildings may have housed secretive ritual practices, spaces for divination, or initiation rites inaccessible to the general populace. Others propose that their careful placement within the city may reflect hierarchies of power, with proximity to larger temples indicating status, authority, or spiritual favor. The precise meaning of carvings and glyphs on doorways and lintels remains elusive, raising questions about literacy, symbolic communication, and cultural transmission in ways that scholars continue to debate. Could the lesser structures, often overlooked, encode knowledge, stories, or even technological understanding that the Maya considered vital, yet concealed from outsiders? The interaction between the lesser structures and the larger monumental architecture is also fascinating. While grand temples dominate the skyline and ceremonial heart of Yaxchilan, the smaller buildings form a network, a subtle lattice connecting plazas, stairways, and courtyards. This interplay suggests a sophisticated urban planning strategy, one that harmonized public spectacle with private devotion, administration with ritual, and social hierarchy with community cohesion. How did the Maya conceive of this integration? Were the lesser structures simply functional satellites, or were they active participants in the city's spiritual, social, and cosmic architecture? Even today, as one moves through the partially restored corridors and courtyards of these smaller buildings, the sense of human presence is palpable. The cool shade of stone and jungle, the echoes of footfalls on worn stairways, and the intricate carvings still visible on doorways evoke lives long past, rituals performed, conversations held, and decisions made that shaped the trajectory of this remarkable civilization. Yet for all the insight these structures provide, the full story remains tantalizingly out of reach. What remains undiscovered beneath the forest floor, buried in debris, or hidden in carvings worn by centuries of exposure? And what might these secrets tell us about the ingenuity, spirituality, and cosmology of the Maya at Yaxchilan? As sunlight filters through the dense canopy and illuminates the delicate glyphs and worn stone steps, the lesser structures of Yaxchilan stand as quiet witnesses to human endeavor, curiosity, and devotion. They remind us that even in the shadow of monumental architecture, smaller, subtler constructions can hold profound insight into the mind and culture of ancient peoples. And as the jungle shifts and whispers around these ruins, one cannot help but wonder, what knowledge, practices, or mysteries remain hidden in these stones, waiting for patient exploration and insight to bring them back into the light? Perched along the steep canyons of northern New Mexico, the bandolier stone structures rise from the ochre cliffs like echoes of a forgotten past. The cliffs themselves are a patchwork of tough and volcanic rock, eroded over millennia into soft alcoves and overhangs, which the ancestral Pueblo peoples transformed into intricate dwellings. From a distance, these structures appear as natural outgrowths of the landscape, seamlessly blending human ingenuity with the contours of the earth. Yet a closer look reveals a deliberate, meticulous construction: multi-storied homes, ceremonial kivas, and storage spaces, all carved and built into the volcanic rock with an attention to detail that continues to astonish archaeologists and visitors alike. How did these people, without modern tools or machinery, shape stone so precisely and sustainably? And what motivated them to embed their homes so completely into the rugged cliffs, creating a landscape that is both protective and enigmatic? The bandolier structures were primarily inhabited between roughly 1150 and 1550 CE, a period of remarkable cultural development in the American Southwest. The Puebloans carved rooms into the soft volcanic tuff, stacking them vertically, connecting them with ladders and narrow passageways. Stone masonry reinforced exposed surfaces, providing both stability and longevity. The dwellings were not isolated. They formed complex communities, often incorporating plazas, stairways, and ceremonial spaces into a cohesive urban fabric. These cliffside homes were designed with careful attention to environmental factors, insulated naturally by the rock, protected from harsh winds, and cooled by the shade of overhanging cliffs. Yet beyond their practical benefits lies an undeniable artistry, a sense of spatial harmony that raises deeper questions about the Puebloans' understanding of architecture, social organization, and perhaps even symbolic expression. Many of the bandolier structures feature kivas, circular subterranean rooms used for ritual purposes. The kivas, often accessed by ladders through small openings in their ceilings, are meticulously constructed, sometimes featuring fire pits, ventilations, and symbolic carvings. Archaeologists have identified patterns in their size, placement, and orientation, suggesting deliberate cosmological or spiritual alignment. Could these subterranean spaces have served as conduits between the physical and spiritual worlds, or as stages for communal rites that reinforced social cohesion? And if so, what knowledge or belief systems guided their construction, encoded in ways that are subtle, yet unmistakably intentional? Artifacts recovered from bandolier, including pottery, tools, and ceremonial objects, reveal a society deeply engaged in both daily life and spiritual practice. Grinding stones and storage jars indicate agricultural activity and food preservation, while intricately decorated vessels suggest ritual use and aesthetic expression. Yet despite this evidence, many aspects of bandolier remain mysterious. Why were certain structures carved deep within alcoves, while others rise above the canyon floor? What dictated the choice of locations for ceremonial spaces versus living quarters? And how much of the spatial arrangement reflects social hierarchy, cosmological alignment, or long-forgotten symbolic meaning? The ingenuity of the bandolier builders extends beyond stone carving. Water management systems, including cisterns, channels, and reservoirs, demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of hydrology in an arid environment. Terraces and gardens were carefully positioned to maximize fertility, while pathways and stairways suggest an intricate knowledge of movement and access within complex topography. Could these systems also encode knowledge about seasonal cycles, celestial events, or agricultural rhythms, blending practical necessity with spiritual awareness? And if so, how much of this understanding has been lost, hidden beneath layers of erosion, vegetation, or centuries of abandonment? Speculative theories surrounding bandolier abound, though many remain unproven. Some suggest that the cliff dwellings functioned as protective refuges, designed to withstand conflict or sudden threats. Others propose that their construction may have been linked to ritual or astronomical observation, aligning rooms and passages with solstices, lunar cycles, or prominent celestial bodies. While evidence for these interpretations varies, the deliberate placement and architectural precision of the dwellings fuel ongoing intrigue. Could the builders have intentionally designed spaces to connect human activity with cosmic or environmental rhythms, merging the practical and the mystical in a manner that continues to elude our understanding? The environment itself amplifies the mystery and beauty of the site. From the canyon rim, one can survey the surrounding mesas, valleys, and distant mountains, envisioning the expanse of land controlled, cultivated, and revered by the Puebloans. The interplay of light and shadow on the cliff faces transforms the structures throughout the day, revealing hidden alcoves, stairways, and terraces. In the quiet of dawn or dusk, the dwellings appear almost alive, as if the cliffs themselves whisper the stories of those who lived and labored here, leaving behind both material and immaterial legacies. What else might be hidden in the alcoves, crevices, and forgotten corners of the canyon, waiting for discovery? Even the process of moving through the dwellings evokes reflection. Ascending narrow stairways, ducking through low openings, and entering kivas, one gains a visceral sense of the lives and experiences of the ancient inhabitants. The integration of vertical and horizontal spaces suggests a sophisticated understanding of human movement, spatial hierarchy, and communal organization. Yet for all the knowledge and ingenuity evident in these structures, the deeper symbolic, spiritual, or cosmological reasoning behind their design remains largely speculative. What cultural, spiritual, or technological knowledge did the Puebloans possess that allowed them to create spaces simultaneously functional, protective, and profoundly evocative? Bandelier stands as both a testament and a mystery, a place where human ingenuity, environmental adaptation, and spiritual imagination intersect. The stone walls and alcoves endure as witnesses to centuries of human endeavor, observation, and devotion, yet they guard secrets we may never fully uncover. What stories, beliefs, and knowledge lie embedded in the rock, passed down through generations, only to vanish when the dwellings were abandoned? And what can modern observers learn from the subtle interplay of architecture, environment, and ritual encoded in the cliffside structures? As the sun casts long shadows across the canyon floor and the tough cliffs glow with warm, muted colors, Bandelier invites quiet reflection. It challenges us to consider the limits of ancient technology, the depth of human ingenuity, and the ways in which our ancestors sought to harmonize daily life with spiritual and cosmic understanding. And while the dwellings, kivas, and terraces offer glimpses into a remarkable civilization, they also leave us with enduring questions. What remains hidden within the cliffs, and what mysteries, silently carved in stone, are waiting to be revealed to those who look closely enough? Perched atop a commanding ridge overlooking the valley of Oaxaca, the ancient site of Yagul emerges as a silent testament to the ingenuity and curiosity of the Zapotec civilization. From a distance, the ruins appear as a collection of stone platforms, terraces, and pyramidal structures, arranged with deliberate precision across the landscape. The warm light of the morning sun casts long shadows across the complex, revealing subtle alignments and careful orientations that hint at knowledge far beyond mere construction. Among these remnants, the ancient observatory stands as a particularly compelling enigma, a structure whose purpose, function, and meaning continue to captivate archaeologists and historians alike. How did the Zapotecs achieve such precision without modern tools? And what insights into the cosmos, time, or ritual might be hidden within the stones of this elevated platform? Yagul thrived between roughly 500 and 900 CE, during the classic period of Mesoamerican history. The city was a hub of political power, religious activity, and economic exchange. But the observatory suggests that its inhabitants also sought to understand the celestial rhythms that governed their world. The observatory itself is modest in scale compared to the grand pyramids found elsewhere, yet it demonstrates a sophisticated grasp of spatial alignment and astronomical observation. Its platforms, sightlines, and surrounding terraces appear deliberately positioned to mark significant solar and lunar events, solstices, equinoxes, and the zenith passage of the sun, allowing its users to track the passage of time with remarkable accuracy. Could this structure have functioned as both a practical instrument and a sacred space where scientific observation and ritual practice converged in a seamless blend? The architecture of the observatory invites close scrutiny. Constructed from precisely cut stone blocks, the platform rises above the surrounding terraces, providing clear sightlines to the horizon in multiple directions. Some researchers note that certain walls and openings align with the rising or setting sun at key moments of the year, suggesting that the Zapotecs incorporated careful astronomical planning into the very fabric of their architecture. Others observe that particular features may have corresponded with lunar cycles or other celestial events, hinting at knowledge of patterns that governed both agriculture and ritual. How much of this precision was intentional, and how much might reflect a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos encoded into the urban landscape itself? Excavations at Yagul have revealed a rich tapestry of artifacts, from ceremonial pottery and obsidian tools to carved stone markers that may have served calendrical or symbolic functions. The observatory, in particular, suggests that the site's inhabitants were keenly aware of cycles, both celestial and terrestrial, and may have sought to synchronize human activity with these rhythms. Were the observations conducted here purely practical, guiding agricultural schedules and civic planning, or did they also serve a deeper spiritual purpose, linking the movements of the heavens with the cycles of life, death, and ritual? The duality of function, both scientific and sacred, remains a subject of intrigue and speculation. Beyond its astronomical utility, the observatory's placement within the broader cityscape of Yagul hints at careful urban planning. The structure is integrated with terraces, plazas, and residential areas in a way that reflects both accessibility and prominence, suggesting that observation was a public or semi-public practice, perhaps overseen by priests, astronomers, or civic leaders. Could the observatory have functioned as a teaching space, a ceremonial stage, or even a center for political authority, where knowledge of the heavens reinforced social hierarchy? The interplay of practical, spiritual, and civic functions embedded in stone raises questions that continue to elude definitive answers. Speculative interpretations further deepen the mystery. Some researchers suggest that Yagul's observatory may have played a role in predicting eclipses, marking lunar cycles, or even anticipating astronomical phenomena whose significance is now obscured. Others propose that its design may have encoded cosmological principles, allowing its users to map the relationship between celestial bodies, seasonal cycles, and agricultural events. While concrete evidence remains limited, the careful alignment, orientation, and placement of the platform indicate a level of sophistication that surpasses what might be expected for a settlement of its size and period. Could the Zapotecs have possessed observational techniques or mathematical understanding now lost to history? The natural environment amplifies the site's enigmatic qualities. From the observatory, one can survey the Oaxaca Valley in sweeping panoramas, with distant mountains marking the horizon. Seasonal shifts cast long shadows, illuminate hidden terraces, and reveal subtle variations in the terrain that may have been meaningful to the observatory's function. The interplay of light, shadow, and landscape suggests a deliberate choice, a conscious integration of the built environment with the natural world. Did the Zapotecs select this precise ridge for its view, for its alignment with celestial events, or for a combination of practical, ritual, and symbolic reasons? And how much of the landscape's meaning has been lost over centuries of erosion, vegetation growth, and human activity? Moving among the terraces and platforms of the observatory, one gains a tangible sense of human presence, both past and enduring. The weathered stones, carefully cut and placed, convey patience, precision, and intentionality. The alignment of walls and sightlines evokes a culture attuned to both the sky above and the earth below, one that sought to harmonize daily life with the vast rhythms of the cosmos. Yet, for all the insight these structures provide, many mysteries remain. What exact methods did the Zapotecs use to track celestial events? How did this knowledge inform their rituals, governance, and social organization? And what wisdom, now obscured by time, is encoded within the observatory's stones? Yagul's observatory stands as a quiet reminder of the depth of ancient knowledge and the sophistication of civilizations often overshadowed by later history. Its presence challenges modern observers to reconsider the limits of prehistoric science, architecture, and spirituality. And as sunlight shifts across its terraces and platforms, illuminating alignments crafted centuries ago, one cannot help but wonder, what other secrets lie hidden in the stone, waiting for careful observation, patient study, and respectful inquiry to reveal insights that may forever alter our understanding of the past. Stretching across the windswept plains of Brittany, France, the Karnak alignments unfold in an expanse of rolling fields, punctuated by rows of standing stones that seem to extend endlessly toward the horizon. The larger, more famous menhirs capture immediate attention, towering above the landscape with an almost imposing presence. But it is in the lesser alignments, the smaller stones, subtle groupings, and quieter stretches, that one feels the full weight of mystery and deliberate design. These unassuming stones, weathered by millennia of wind and rain, maintain a silent dialogue with the land and sky, their purpose obscured by time, yet their presence speaks of an ancient society attuned to forces both terrestrial and celestial. How did Neolithic people, without compasses or surveying instruments, position thousands of stones with such precision? And what knowledge, belief, or intention guided them to create a landscape that continues to confound and inspire today? The lesser alignments at Karnak date back roughly to 4,500 to 3,300 BCE, making them some of the oldest known megalithic constructions in Europe. Stretching over several kilometers, these stone rows were not randomly placed. Their arrangement suggests careful planning, astronomical observation, and cultural significance. The smaller stones, often overlooked, reveal subtle patterns in spacing, orientation, and grouping. Archaeologists have noted that these patterns may correspond to solar and lunar cycles, or even to notable celestial events. Could these alignments have functioned as a primitive calendar, guiding agricultural cycles, ritual observances, or social gatherings? And if so, how sophisticated was the understanding encoded in such simple yet enduring forms? Walking among the lesser stones, one senses the deliberate rhythm imposed upon the landscape. Unlike the grand ceremonial axes of the larger menhirs, the smaller stones create lines, arcs, and clusters that seem to echo patterns in nature. Rivers, ridges, and valleys, or perhaps map the movements of stars and planets. The effort required to quarry, transport, and erect even these modest stones is considerable, hinting at a society capable of organization, planning, and sustained labor. How much of this construction was motivated by practical necessity, and how much by spiritual, symbolic, or astronomical intent? Could the very act of erecting these stones have been a ritual, a form of devotion, or a means of connecting the human community with the cosmos? Excavations and studies at Karnak have revealed traces of domestic life, burial practices, and ceremonial artifacts nearby, yet the precise purpose of the lesser alignments remains elusive. Unlike the imposing dolmens or tumuli associated with burial, these smaller stones lack obvious markers of interment. Were they simply markers, territorial indicators, or symbolic pathways linking sacred spaces? Or were they part of a complex system for observing celestial phenomena, where even minor deviations in placement conveyed meaning or calculated observation? The precision of the layout, even in these smaller stones, suggests that something far more complex and deliberate may be hidden within the arrangement. Some researchers have proposed that the lesser alignments may have served multiple functions simultaneously, blending practicality with spirituality. Certain rows appear to extend toward natural landmarks or water sources, perhaps guiding processions, herding routes, or ceremonial gatherings. Others suggest that the alignments encode a symbolic narrative, mapping mythological stories or spiritual journeys across the landscape. While concrete evidence is limited, the enduring presence of these stones invites speculation about the cultural and intellectual sophistication of the Neolithic builders. Did they possess knowledge of astronomy, geometry, or environmental observation that has since been lost? And if so, how much of that knowledge was encoded in these subtle, understated stones, rather than the grand monuments that attract modern attention. The interaction between the lesser and greater alignments also hints at a layered understanding of space and purpose. While towering menhirs may have marked ceremonial centers or served as focal points for community gatherings, the smaller stones form connective tissue, creating networks of meaning and movement across the terrain. The spacing, orientation, and gradual shifts in size suggest that the Neolithic architects considered both micro and macro perspectives, integrating human scale with the expanse of the landscape. Could this reflect an early understanding of spatial hierarchy, symbolic geography, or even cosmological mapping that transcends modern assumptions about prehistoric capability? Environmental factors further enhance the enigmatic qualities of the site. The Karnak Plain is open and windswept, with long vistas that allow clear sight lines across the rows of stones. Seasonal changes alter the landscape dramatically. Sunlight shifts across the stones, casting shadows that may have marked time or seasonal transitions. The subtle variations in topography, soil, and elevation may also have influenced placement, suggesting a deep connection between the builders and their environment. Was the selection of sites and alignment purely functional, dictated by terrain and visibility, or was it imbued with symbolic, ritualistic, or cosmological meaning? And what hidden relationships between stone, land, and sky remain waiting to be deciphered? Speculative interpretations extend further, highlighting the allure of Karnak's lesser alignments. Some suggest that the stones were part of a ritual landscape for processions, divination, or ceremonial dances, their arrangement guiding movement through the spiritual or sacred realms. Others propose that the alignments functioned as observatories, tracking the movements of stars, planets, or lunar cycles, embedding astronomical knowledge into stone. While no definitive answers exist, the deliberate placement of thousands of small stones indicates a level of planning and intention that continues to challenge modern understanding. Could it be that the knowledge encoded here combined ritual, astronomy, and environmental mastery in a way that defies simple classification? Walking among the Karnak stones today, one is struck by the patience, precision, and vision required to create this enduring landscape. Each smaller stone, though modest in size, contributes to a grand tapestry that links human effort with natural rhythms and cosmic patterns. The quiet power of the lesser alignments lies not in their individual presence, but in the collective orchestration across kilometers of land. And yet, for all their apparent order and sophistication, these stones remain a mystery. How much knowledge, skill, or belief has been lost over millennia? What stories, celestial observations, or cultural practices are encoded in these humble monoliths? And what secrets of Neolithic life, thought, or cosmology are still waiting, patiently, to be revealed? As the wind sweeps across the Karnak Plain and sunlight shifts along the rows of stones, the lesser alignments stand as both monument and puzzle, a quiet testament to human ingenuity, devotion, and the enduring allure of the unknown. They remind us that even the smallest stones, placed with intention and care, can carry meaning across thousands of years, inviting us to wonder, to reflect, and to imagine what else may lie hidden in the landscape of prehistory. The winds of the remote Siberian plateau sweep across a landscape both desolate and mesmerizing. Jagged mountains rise on the horizon, their peaks often hidden beneath a veil of mist, while the shallow waters of Lake Terrakol glisten like a mirror under the pale light of the northern sun. In the middle of this seemingly endless expanse, a strange silhouette emerges, an imposing, nearly square structure of ancient stone and clay, partially eroded by centuries of Siberian winters. This is Por-Bazhyn, a fortress shrouded in mystery, whose purpose and origin have perplexed archaeologists for decades. Its very existence in this isolated region, thousands of kilometers from the great centers of Eurasian civilization, invites questions that refuse easy answers. Por-Bazhyn occupies an almost ritualistic symmetry. From an aerial view, the fortress appears as a perfect square, each side measuring roughly 200 meters, with an intricate network of walls, towers, and internal structures arranged with an almost obsessive precision. Its walls, though now partially crumbled, were once thick, reinforced, and designed to endure both time and the harsh Siberian climate. The corners of the fortress are marked by square towers, while the internal layout hints at a meticulously planned complex, possibly intended for both defensive and ceremonial purposes. But beyond the architectural rigor, what strikes researchers is its location. Isolated, in a region that, even today, feels cut off from the pulse of the modern world. Archaeological studies date Por-Bazhyn to the 8th century CE, during the era of the Uyghur Khaganate, a powerful nomadic empire that stretched across Central Asia. According to mainstream scholarship, the fortress may have functioned as a summer palace or a strategic military outpost, a remote node in a network of settlements designed to assert control over the region. Yet, even within this conventional explanation, inconsistencies linger. The sheer effort required to transport materials, organize labor, and construct such a sophisticated edifice in a place so remote suggests a level of planning and resources that seems extraordinary, even for the Uyghurs. The fortress itself continues to guard its secrets. Its walls are composed of clay and wooden reinforcements, a technique known in various Eurasian cultures but rare in Siberia. Within, the remnants of buildings suggest a diversity of functions: living quarters, administrative areas, and spaces that might have served ritualistic purposes. Some researchers point to the symmetry and alignment of certain structures, noting that they correspond to solar and lunar cycles, a hint, perhaps, of a spiritual or astronomical significance. Was Por-Bazhyn merely a military or administrative site, or did it also serve as a sacred space, a bridge between the earthly realm and the cosmos? The stones themselves remain silent, yet their arrangement seems deliberate, almost thoughtful, as if the fortress were designed to convey a message long lost to time. Layered within these observations are the more perplexing mysteries. The fortress appears to have been occupied for only a brief period, possibly as little as a few decades, before being abandoned under circumstances that remain unclear. There are no records of a violent conquest or mass destruction, and yet the site was left to the elements, as if those who built it had vanished from the land entirely. Could this have been a symbolic abandonment, a deliberate act to leave the structure as a monument for unknown eyes? Or was it something more practical, a response to environmental or political pressures that history simply did not record? Every theory seems to raise as many questions as it answers. Geographically, Por-Bazhyn is extraordinary. Lake Tarakal, cradled by surrounding mountains, imbues the fortress with a natural moat, isolating it from the surrounding terrain. The location is both strategic and enigmatic. Scholars have speculated that its placement could relate to ancient trade routes, spiritual geography, or even hidden knowledge of local topography that has since been lost. One cannot help but wonder whether the builders possessed insights into their environment that exceeded the ordinary, enabling them to identify this precise site as optimal for construction, defense, or ritual, an understanding that has faded from collective memory. Adding to the intrigue is the construction methodology itself. The walls, composed of clay mixed with organic materials, were built in a fashion that allowed them to endure extreme temperatures and seasonal shifts, swelling and contracting without collapsing. The corners exhibit interlocking techniques that suggest a sophisticated understanding of structural integrity. These are methods that, while not unknown to other cultures, seem almost anomalous in a remote Siberian plateau. Modern engineers and historians alike have marveled at the precision with which the fortress was erected, raising the tantalizing question: how did the builders achieve such technical expertise in a place so isolated? Were there lost methods, knowledge of materials and engineering that the world has yet to rediscover? The pattern of Por-Bazhyn also invites reflection on the intentions of its creators. The careful symmetry, the alignment with celestial phenomena, the brief yet deliberate occupation. These features combine to create an aura of purpose that transcends simple functionality. Some fringe theories suggest more speculative possibilities. Could the fortress have been a ceremonial hub, a place of ritual initiation for a select group within the Uyghur Khaganate? Or might it have served as a repository for esoteric knowledge hidden from ordinary eyes, meant to guide or protect a future generation? While evidence for such claims is thin, the fortress itself does not contradict them. Its design invites interpretation, prompting us to consider that the motivations of its builders may have extended beyond the purely material. Even the materials themselves tell a story of mystery. The clay used in the walls appears locally sourced, yet the precision of its processing, the uniformity in thickness, and the endurance against Siberian winters indicate an intimate familiarity with material science. The wooden reinforcements, likely sourced from surrounding forests, were carefully selected and treated, suggesting a meticulous, almost ritualized approach to construction. Every stone, every timber, every measured angle seems imbued with purpose, as if the fortress were not merely a building, but a deliberate statement, a testament to human ingenuity, determination, and perhaps something more elusive. Time has not been kind to Por-Bazhyn. Centuries of wind, rain, and frost have eroded its walls, while vegetation has reclaimed much of its interior. Yet, even in decay, the fortress retains an undeniable aura of sophistication. Archaeologists continue to uncover pottery shards, remnants of hearths, and traces of wooden beams, each artifact offering clues to the lives of those who once inhabited this isolated stronghold. And yet, the narrative remains incomplete. There are no inscriptions, no definitive records explaining why Por-Bazhyn was built, who commissioned it, or why it was abandoned. In many ways, the fortress is a riddle carved into the Siberian landscape, waiting for patient minds to decipher its meaning. Perhaps the most haunting question is why such a sophisticated structure would emerge in a region so far from the great urban centers of the era. Was it a bold experiment by the Uyghur Khaganate, an isolated demonstration of architectural mastery? Or could it represent a meeting point of cultures, a forgotten hub where ideas and technologies intersected briefly before vanishing into obscurity? Every excavation seems to reveal more questions than answers. And in the quiet moments, when the wind sighs across the plateau and the lake reflects a sky heavy with clouds, one can almost feel the presence of those who labored here, their intentions and secrets suspended in the chill air, unreachable yet undeniably tangible. Por-Bazhyn remains an enigma, a fortress whose stones whisper of ambition, knowledge, and mystery. Its brevity of use, its isolated grandeur, and the precision of its construction suggest a story both human and extraordinary, a story that challenges our understanding of history, technology, and cultural reach. What drove its builders to create such a monument in the heart of Siberia? Why was it abandoned so swiftly, leaving no records beyond the stones themselves? And what might still lie beneath the soil, buried beneath centuries of snow and wind, waiting to tell a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity? As we gaze upon Por-Bazhyn today, the answers remain elusive. Its presence is a quiet challenge to our assumptions, a reminder that the past holds complexities far beyond our immediate comprehension. Perhaps its true purpose will never be fully known, or perhaps future discoveries will illuminate its mysteries. For now, the fortress stands as both a testament to human endeavor and a tantalizing question, a silent sentinel in the Siberian wilderness, daring us to imagine what secrets might still be hidden, just beyond the reach of our understanding. The Andean highlands stretch endlessly beneath a sky that shifts swiftly from bright blue to brooding gray. Among the undulating hills, carved terraces, and winding rivers, there lies a subtle, almost hidden network of stone structures, lesser-known companions to the famed Ingapirka Temple of the Sun. These are the Ingapirka lesser structures, scattered remnants of a civilization whose ambition and ingenuity are only beginning to be understood. Unlike the main temple, which dominates the landscape with its precise stone masonry, these smaller constructions appear almost secretive, tucked into the folds of valleys or perched atop ridges, as if deliberately designed to be discovered only by the observant eye. From a distance, the stones seem to rise naturally from the earth, blending seamlessly with the rocky terrain. Walking among them, one is struck by their irregularity. Some walls are perfectly straight, others follow curves that echo the contours of the mountains. Some stones are massive, expertly fitted, while others appear crudely shaped. Yet, the more one observes, the more one senses a deliberate pattern, a logic that defies casual inspection. Could these structures have been auxiliary buildings, storage facilities, or perhaps shelters for travelers and pilgrims? Mainstream archaeology often interprets them as support elements for the larger ceremonial complex, but such explanations only hint at the story beneath the surface. Ingapirka, the name itself derived from Quechua meaning Inca wall, evokes the grandeur of the empire that briefly extended into this region. The Inca occupation of these highlands, however, was layered atop earlier cultures, particularly the Cañari people, whose influence is still evident in the distinctive masonry techniques and the alignment of these lesser structures. Unlike the central temple's finely cut and tightly interlocked stones, the smaller edifices often feature a hybrid style, blending Inca precision with local Cañari methods. This merging of architectural traditions speaks to a complex cultural interaction, raising questions about the purpose and planning of these scattered constructions. Were they purely practical, or did they carry symbolic or ceremonial significance that we are only beginning to glimpse? As one moves closer, the craftsmanship becomes impossible to ignore. Some stones weigh several tons, yet they fit together with astonishing precision without mortar, creating walls that have withstood centuries of seismic activity and harsh weather. Certain alignments seem purposeful, perhaps correlating with the rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, or even the constellations that governed agricultural cycles. Were the builders guided purely by practical concerns, or did they possess an astronomical knowledge integrated into the very fabric of their constructions? The patterns provoke questions that linger long after the initial observation, encouraging a slow, meditative investigation into intent and design. Yet there is an air of mystery beyond the architectural. The Ingapirka lesser structures occupy a landscape that is itself enigmatic. Paths between the stones sometimes vanish into overgrown terraces or disappear at steep cliff edges, suggesting that the terrain may have been deliberately manipulated or that certain routes were intentionally obscured. Could these subtle cues indicate a spiritual or ritual function, a network meant to guide pilgrims through a symbolic journey? Perhaps the lesser structures were designed not for permanence or daily use, but as markers in a landscape of memory, a system of living monuments that connected people to the mountains, the sky, and the sacred energies believed to dwell there. Archaeological excavations reveal a fascinating yet incomplete picture. Artifacts such as pottery fragments, tools, and traces of hearths suggest periods of habitation and activity, yet the records are sporadic, inconsistent, and frustratingly fragmentary. There is little evidence of violent destruction or sudden abandonment, which raises intriguing possibilities. Were these structures intentionally left incomplete, or were they gradually abandoned due to shifting political or environmental pressures? And why were they positioned with such care and precision if they were meant to be temporary? These questions hint at a level of cultural complexity that challenges the simplistic view of these as mere outbuildings or functional support structures. Some researchers have explored more speculative interpretations. The arrangement of stones along certain ridges appears to correspond with geological formations or natural water channels, hinting at an understanding of local topography and hydrology that may have extended beyond everyday engineering. Could the builders have possessed knowledge of environmental patterns, rainfall, soil fertility, or even seasonal winds, that guided the placement of each structure? Others suggest that the lesser buildings could have served as astronomical observatories or ritual spaces, their positions carefully chosen to track celestial events. While there is no definitive proof, the mere possibility invites a reconsideration of how the Inca and Cañari peoples interacted with both their landscape and their spiritual cosmology. Material analysis further deepens the intrigue. Stones were quarried locally but show signs of deliberate selection, not just for size or durability, but for subtle characteristics, color, texture, and perhaps symbolic resonance. In some cases, stones from distant outcrops appear to have been transported with extraordinary effort, raising questions about the logistics of construction and the societal organization required to accomplish it. Was there a system of labor that combined skilled masons, planners, and spiritual leaders? Or was the selection of stones itself a ritual, an act of communication with unseen forces? Each possibility points to a civilization both pragmatic and deeply aware of the symbolic resonance of space and material. Walking among the lesser structures, one is also struck by their silence. They are overshadowed by the grandeur of the main temple, yet they radiate an intimacy, a quieter narrative that hints at daily life, ceremony, and human aspiration. Some walls bear faint traces of plaster or pigments, suggesting decoration or ritual use. Others contain niches or openings that could have served practical purposes or more esoteric functions. The very incompleteness of these structures becomes part of their allure, prompting reflection on the interplay between permanence and impermanence, utility and symbolism, human endeavor and natural forces. Geographically, the Ingapirca complex occupies a strategic yet remote vantage, a highland plateau that commands views of surrounding valleys and rivers. From these elevations, one can imagine ancient travelers approaching the site, guided by the lesser structures, which may have served as waypoints, markers, or even testaments to communal memory. The interplay between the natural topography and constructed elements suggests intentionality that extends beyond simple practicality. Could it be that the builders were encoding knowledge into the landscape itself, leaving a map of meaning embedded in stone and earth, intended to be read by those attuned to its signals? Ultimately, the Ingapirca lesser structures resist full explanation. They challenge conventional narratives of pre-Columbian architecture, revealing a complexity that hints at knowledge, intention, and ingenuity lost to time. Were these buildings merely functional, supporting the greater temple and its rituals, or were they part of a sophisticated system of observation, communication, or spiritual practice? Perhaps they were both, or something else entirely, something that eludes our modern frameworks for understanding. The absence of definitive records leaves room for wonder, inviting each observer to engage with the landscape not as a passive spectator, but as a participant in an ongoing dialogue with the past. As the sun dips behind the Andean peaks, casting long shadows across terraces and stones, the Ingapirca lesser structures seem to shimmer with a quiet authority. Their precise lines, enigmatic placement, and subtle integration into the natural terrain continue to speak, in a language that is partly lost, yet still palpable. Perhaps the mystery lies not in what we can immediately measure or interpret, but in the questions they provoke, the stories they hint at, and the possibility that an entire system of knowledge, technological, spiritual, or both, remains hidden, waiting for those patient enough to uncover it. Standing among these stones, one cannot help but ask, what truths did the builders intend to preserve in this highland wilderness? What knowledge, ritual, or message might have been encoded in their layout, their alignment, their very selection of materials? And, most provocatively, what has been lost, forever, or merely hidden beneath centuries of erosion, vegetation, and human forgetfulness? The Ingapirka lesser structures remain a testament to human ingenuity and curiosity, a fragment of an intricate puzzle that continues to challenge, intrigue, and inspire those who venture into the heart of Ecuador's ancient highlands. The desert stretches endlessly under a pale, merciless sun, its sands and stones shimmering with heat, punctuated only by distant ridges and the occasional stunted shrub. Amid this stark and seemingly inhospitable landscape lies a city unlike any other, a city of black stone, rising abruptly from the ochre-colored earth as if the very ground had erupted in basalt. This is el-Jimal, sometimes called the Basalt City, a sprawling complex of ancient dwellings, temples, and fortifications whose dark, volcanic stones create an almost otherworldly presence against the Jordanian desert. From a distance, it appears as a scattered constellation of black ruins, yet as one approaches, the sheer scale, organization, and persistence of human labor become evident. el-Jimal's basalt walls seem to absorb the harsh sunlight, radiating an austere and unyielding presence. The city occupies a plateau at the edge of the desert, offering sweeping views across the surrounding landscape, a vantage point that may have been as strategic as it was symbolic. The black stones themselves are locally sourced, remnants of volcanic activity that shaped this region millennia before human hands arrived. Yet, the stones are not merely scattered rocks. They have been meticulously cut, placed, and interlocked, forming structures that have endured earthquakes, centuries of wind, and the relentless desert climate. The craftsmanship is precise, functional, and aesthetically striking, a testament to a society that understood both its environment and the demands of permanence in an unforgiving land. Historians date the earliest settlements at el-Jimal to the Nabatean period, around the 1st century CE, though the city saw continued habitation through the Roman, Byzantine, and early Islamic periods. Evidence suggests a thriving urban environment, with houses, churches, watchtowers, and intricate water management systems, including cisterns and channels carved into basalt to capture and preserve every precious drop of rain. Yet, despite this apparent prosperity, much about el-Jimal remains elusive. Why was such a sophisticated city established in a harsh desert? How did its inhabitants sustain themselves over centuries in a region that, by all measures, challenges survival? Walking through the ruins, one notices the striking contrast between the organized urban layout and the apparent chaos of the surrounding desert. Streets run with an almost geometric regularity, bordered by densely packed homes, while public buildings and places of worship occupy prominent positions, clearly designed to assert both social hierarchy and communal cohesion. Some walls, built from enormous basalt blocks, demonstrate advanced masonry techniques that echo practices found in regions far removed from Jordan. Was this an indigenous evolution of architectural skill, or could knowledge have been transferred from distant cultures, carried along the trade routes that crisscrossed the region? The stones themselves do not answer, yet their alignment and fit suggest a sophisticated understanding of both geometry and structural stability. Archaeological investigation has revealed an array of evidence pointing to the city's complex social and economic life. Pottery fragments, inscriptions, and coins testify to trade, governance, and daily routines. There are signs of robust religious activity, including both Christian churches from the Byzantine era and earlier Nabatean shrines, suggesting a continuity of spiritual significance over centuries. Yet, despite these clues, the reasons for el-Jimal's prominence and its eventual abandonment remain uncertain. No clear historical record explains why the city, after centuries of occupation, fell into decline, leaving behind only its basalt skeletons. The basalt itself adds another layer of fascination. Unlike limestone or sandstone, basalt is exceedingly hard, difficult to shape, and labor-intensive to transport and manipulate. Every wall, doorway, and foundation represents extraordinary effort and ingenuity. Some structures contain finely cut stones interlocked with remarkable precision, while others employ more irregular methods adapted to the natural forms of the rock. Could this combination of rigidity and flexibility indicate an evolving architectural tradition, one that adapted to the available materials and changing needs over centuries? Or might it suggest external influences, techniques borrowed or observed from neighboring civilizations yet applied uniquely within this volcanic landscape? One of the most compelling aspects of el-Jimal is its strategic location along ancient trade and communication routes. It is situated near paths connecting the Arabian interior to the Mediterranean, making it an ideal node for commerce, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. The city may have functioned as a hub for travelers, traders, and officials, providing a haven amid the harsh desert. Yet the apparent wealth and sophistication of the settlement in such a remote area beg further questions. How did the inhabitants coordinate the construction and maintenance of such durable and elaborate structures? What systems of labor, organization, and knowledge were required to sustain urban life in this challenging environment? And why, ultimately, was the city abandoned, leaving behind a silhouette of black stone that continues to intrigue modern explorers? Some researchers have speculated that el-Jimal's basalt constructions may have had purposes beyond the practical. Certain alignments of streets, towers, and religious buildings correspond loosely to solar and lunar events, hinting at a possible astronomical or ritual dimension. Could the city itself have functioned as a calendar, a sacred map, or a deliberate representation of cosmological principles? While direct evidence remains elusive, the possibility cannot be entirely dismissed. The integration of natural materials, strategic siting, and geometric precision suggests that the builders were not only pragmatic but deeply aware of the symbolic potential of their environment. Walking through the deserted streets, one senses a strange duality: human achievement and silence, permanence and decay, knowledge preserved and knowledge lost. The basalt walls bear witness to centuries of activity, yet provide no direct testimony of personal stories, ambitions, or conflicts. Their endurance against natural forces is almost eerie, prompting reflection on the fleeting nature of human presence and the enduring challenge of understanding civilizations that have left so few written records. How much of the ingenuity required to create el-Jimal has been irretrievably lost? How much do these stones still conceal beneath their surface or within the soil beneath them? Modern investigations have uncovered fragments of water systems, communal buildings, and religious structures, each suggesting an organized and purposeful society capable of sophisticated planning and resource management. Yet every excavation also reveals gaps: walls with unclear purposes, buildings whose functions are ambiguous, and neighborhoods whose organization defies simple categorization. These uncertainties invite speculation. Might el-Jimal have been a ceremonial center, a fortified trade hub, or perhaps a combination of multiple roles, evolving over time as the political and environmental context shifted? And what knowledge, engineering, architectural, astronomical, or otherwise, was embedded in the city that we have yet to fully appreciate or decipher? As the sun dips toward the horizon, the basalt stones glow with a deep, molten-like intensity, casting long shadows that stretch across the deserted streets. The city, though abandoned, feels strangely alive, as though it retains the memory of centuries of human activity, thought, and ritual. Its silence is not emptiness, but an invitation to observe carefully, to reflect, and to wonder about the civilizations that could shape such an environment with ingenuity and vision so far beyond what one might expect in a desert outpost. El-Jimal remains a testament to human perseverance and innovation, an enduring puzzle of stone and space. It prompts a series of questions that have no definitive answers. What drove the inhabitants to build so ambitiously in a harsh and isolated environment? How did they acquire and apply the technical knowledge necessary to manipulate basalt with such precision? And why, after centuries of occupation, was this remarkable city ultimately deserted, leaving behind only its resilient skeleton? As we stand among the black walls and empty streets today, the mystery persists. El-Jimal challenges our assumptions about human ingenuity, resilience, and the ways ancient societies could thrive in seemingly inhospitable landscapes. It invites us to consider not only what has been discovered, but also what remains hidden, what stories, innovations, or knowledge might still be buried beneath the basalt, waiting for the patient eyes of future generations to uncover. In this way, el-Jimal continues to speak, quietly but insistently, reminding us that the past is far more complex, resourceful, and enigmatic than we often imagine. The rugged hills of the Calchaquí valleys rise like a fortress of stone and wind, bathed in the golden light of the Andean sun. Here, on the slopes of the Tucumán province, lie the Quilmes ruins, the largest pre-Columbian settlement in Argentina. From a distance, the ruins seem to merge with the surrounding landscape, their terraces and walls echoing the curves of the hills themselves. The stones, weathered to shades of ochre and gray, cling stubbornly to the slopes, a testament to the endurance of human effort and ingenuity in a land where survival is never guaranteed. Walking among them, one cannot help but sense the magnitude of what was achieved here, and yet, the deeper one looks, the more profound the mysteries become. The Quilmes people, a resilient and resourceful indigenous culture, are believed to have begun constructing this settlement around the 9th century CE. By the time of Spanish contact in the 16th century, the site was already a labyrinth of terraces, fortifications, and dwellings, carefully adapted to the challenging topography. Archaeologists estimate that at its peak, the city may have housed up to 5,000 inhabitants, a remarkable number for a community perched on steep hillsides, far from fertile plains or major rivers. The scale alone raises questions. How did the Quilmes coordinate labor, transport materials, and maintain a functioning city in such a difficult environment? And what drove them to build so extensively in a landscape that demands both respect and resilience? The terraces, carefully cut into the hillsides, are among the site's most striking features. They create a sense of order in what might otherwise appear as chaotic terrain, stabilizing the slopes and preventing erosion while providing space for agriculture. But beyond their practical function, these terraces suggest a sophisticated understanding of the land, water management, and microclimates. Some of the retaining walls are constructed with stones weighing several tons, meticulously fitted without mortar, a technique that echoes construction methods found in the Andes far to the west. Was this a case of convergent architectural evolution, or might there have been cultural exchanges, trade routes, or migrations that carried knowledge across vast distances? The evidence is tantalizing, yet inconclusive. Ascending the ruins, one encounters narrow streets and winding passageways, carefully planned to follow the contours of the hills. These pathways lead to clusters of stone houses, their foundations revealing a surprising uniformity in size and layout. Many of the walls contain niches or recessed spaces whose purpose remains uncertain. Storage, ritual, or symbolic markers are all possibilities. The houses themselves are compact, reflecting both practical adaptation to the terrain and social organization. Could the arrangement of dwellings indicate hierarchical or clan-based structures, or perhaps an intentional alignment to celestial or geographical markers. The absence of written records leaves room for speculation, yet the precision of the layout demands recognition of intentional design. Beyond the residential areas, the fortifications of Quilmes dominate the landscape. The site is strategically positioned, with defensive walls and watchtowers overlooking key approaches, suggesting that the Quilmes people were acutely aware of potential threats, both human and environmental. Historical records indicate prolonged resistance against Spanish colonization, culminating in a brutal siege that eventually led to the dispersal of the population. Yet the fortifications themselves reveal more than military intent. They reflect a society capable of sophisticated planning, logistics, and the mobilization of communal labor. One wonders whether these defensive structures also held symbolic or ceremonial significance, serving as markers of identity and resilience, as much as they did practical defense. The architecture of Quilmes is also notable for its integration with the natural environment. Stones were sourced locally, chosen not only for durability but also for shape and color, creating structures that blend almost seamlessly with the surrounding hills. Some walls curve in harmony with natural ridges, while others align with sight lines across valleys, hinting at an understanding of geography that is both functional and potentially symbolic. Could the placement of specific buildings or terraces correspond to astronomical events, seasonal changes, or sacred sites in the broader landscape? Some researchers suggest that the orientation of certain walls may relate to solstices, equinoxes, or the passage of celestial bodies, clues that hint at a cosmology subtly encoded into the urban plan. Artifacts found at the site provide further insights, though they also deepen the mystery. Pottery fragments, tools, and remnants of textiles reveal a community skilled in craft and daily survival. Yet the scarcity of monumental inscriptions or written records leaves significant gaps in our understanding. We know that the Quilmes people maintained trade networks, likely exchanging goods and knowledge with neighboring cultures, but the full extent of these connections remains speculative. How much of their architectural knowledge was developed in isolation, and how much drew upon the broader Andean or regional traditions? The ruins suggest sophistication and adaptation, yet much about the civilization's intellectual and cultural life remains hidden beneath the stones. One of the most intriguing aspects of the site is the apparent speed and scale of construction. While some terraces and walls seem to reflect centuries of gradual development, other sections suggest highly organized, rapid projects, as if the community mobilized significant resources to achieve specific goals within defined periods. This raises further questions. Were these expansions motivated by environmental pressures, population growth, or political necessity? Or did they reflect ceremonial or symbolic imperatives, efforts to create a landscape imbued with meaning beyond the practical? Each hypothesis opens avenues for thought, yet none provides a definitive answer. The historical context of Quilmes adds another layer of fascination. The city's ultimate fall to Spanish forces in the 17th century was catastrophic. Survivors were deported hundreds of kilometers away, and the once thriving settlement was abandoned. Yet even in ruin, the site conveys the scale and skill of its creators, standing as a silent testament to human resilience. Could there be aspects of Quilmes' urban design, agricultural innovation, or social organization that were lost forever with this displacement? What knowledge might have been encoded into the terraces, streets, and walls that remains invisible to modern observers, awaiting rediscovery by archaeologists or anthropologists? Speculative theories have occasionally surfaced, suggesting that the city may have held purposes beyond the purely practical. Some scholars posit that certain alignments or structures could reflect astronomical observation or ceremonial pathways, a suggestion echoed by the strategic siting of the city on slopes commanding wide vistas. Was Quilmes not only a fortress of survival, but also a landscape of ritual and memory, designed to connect its inhabitants to the heavens, the valleys, and the broader Andean cosmology. While tangible proof is limited, the patterns of construction, orientation, and scale make it difficult to dismiss the possibility entirely. As one explores the labyrinthine terraces, a sense of human ambition and resilience becomes palpable. Every stone, every wall, every curve seems deliberate, suggesting an intimate relationship between people and place, effort and endurance. The ruins provoke reflection on the human capacity to adapt, innovate, and create complex social structures even in challenging environments. Yet they also confront us with the limitations of our knowledge. The Quilmes ruins hold secrets that no amount of excavation or scholarship has fully revealed, mysteries embedded in the very landscape they occupy. The silence of the site today is profound. Where once thousands may have lived, worked, prayed, and defended their homes, only echoes remain, carried by the wind over stone terraces and deserted streets. Yet the absence of life does not equate to absence of meaning. Instead, the ruins challenge observers to contemplate the ingenuity and vision of a people long gone, whose work has endured in a landscape that offers both protection and hardship. Could there be elements of the city's design, knowledge of the environment, or social organization that we have yet to recognize? How much of Quilmes' story is permanently lost, and how much waits quietly beneath the surface, hidden from view but waiting to be discovered? Walking through the remains of Quilmes, one becomes acutely aware of the tension between permanence and impermanence. The city, though in ruins, continues to shape the land, guiding footsteps, framing vistas, and marking the passage of centuries with its silent presence. Its terraces, walls, and foundations speak not only of survival, but also of intention, ambition, and cultural memory. Every curve, every alignment, every carefully fitted stone invites questions about the knowledge, skill, and worldview of those who labored to create a settlement that could endure the harshness of the Andes. Ultimately, the Quilmes ruins remain both a testament and a challenge. They testify to the resilience, creativity, and social sophistication of a people whose story is only partially known, yet they challenge modern observers to look beyond conventional explanations. Were these terraces and fortifications built solely for defense and survival, or did they serve a symbolic or ritual function as well? Did the design encode knowledge of the environment, celestial patterns, or social hierarchy that remains invisible to us today? And, perhaps most provocatively, what other lessons or insights might lie hidden in the stones, terraces, and pathways, awaiting discovery by those patient enough to read the landscape carefully? As the afternoon sun dips toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the undulating terraces, the Quilmes ruins exude a quiet power. They speak not in words but in stone, in curves and angles, in the patterns etched into the land. The mysteries they hold remain, inviting us to imagine the lives, ambitions, and knowledge of a people who shaped the rugged hills of Tucumán with skill and determination far beyond what we often credit to pre-Columbian civilizations. Perhaps the true story of Quilmes will never be fully known. Yet the ruins continue to challenge, inspire, and provoke wonder, standing as a silent monument to human ingenuity, perseverance, and the enduring allure of the unknown. The sun dips low over the Chihuahuan Desert, painting the landscape in shades of ochre, amber, and deep sienna. From afar, the Pacame ruins emerge like a phantom city, perched upon a plateau overlooking the arid valleys below. Once a thriving settlement of the ancient Casas Grandes culture, Pacame sprawls across the terrain with an architectural complexity that still baffles modern observers. Terraces, multi-story buildings, ceremonial platforms, and sophisticated water channels are woven into the desert in ways that seem almost preordained, as if the land itself had guided the hands of the builders. Standing among the ruins today, one is struck not only by their scale and precision, but by a sense of mystery that lingers over every stone and wall. The settlement is vast. Excavations reveal hundreds of structures, some rising 2 or 3 stories high, built from adobe bricks meticulously shaped and fired to resist the desert's harsh extremes. Walls are thick, with niches and protrusions that may have served structural, aesthetic, or symbolic purposes. Walkways connect dwellings in intricate patterns, while enclosed courtyards suggest communal spaces for gathering, ceremony, or trade. Water channels, ingeniously constructed to capture and distribute scarce rainfall, hint at a civilization that had mastered environmental engineering far beyond what one might expect in such a remote region. How did the inhabitants conceive of such an organized city in a landscape where survival required constant vigilance and adaptation? Pakime's origins are traced to around the 13th century CE, though the area had seen human activity long before. By the time the city reached its peak, it was part of a complex network of trade and cultural exchange spanning northern Mexico and the American Southwest. Artifacts unearthed at the site, including macaw feathers, copper bells, and pottery, attest to connections reaching hundreds of miles. Yet, for all its sophistication, Pakime remains enigmatic. How did a settlement of this scale emerge in an environment so challenging? How were materials transported, labor organized, and knowledge transmitted without written records or apparent centralized administration? And why, after centuries of apparent prosperity, was it suddenly abandoned? One of the most striking features of Pakime is the verticality of its architecture. Multi-story structures were built with an eye to both defense and utility. Staircases and ladders allowed inhabitants to navigate between levels, while carefully designed walls provided stability against both seismic activity and the harsh desert winds. The precision of adobe brick construction is particularly notable. Each brick was uniform, carefully fired, and laid to optimize strength and durability. Some walls feature intricate patterns of niches and openings, their purpose still debated. Were they purely functional, serving ventilation or light control, or did they hold ceremonial or symbolic significance? Could these designs encode knowledge about cosmology, social hierarchy, or even a sophisticated understanding of physics that remains invisible to us today? Beyond its structural marvels, Pakime reveals a sophisticated approach to urban planning. Buildings are arranged along streets and plazas, with residential, administrative, and ceremonial spaces clearly delineated. The city's layout reflects both practicality and perhaps a deeper symbolic logic. Certain structures align with solar events, suggesting an awareness of astronomy that influenced construction. Some researchers propose that Pakime functioned as a ceremonial hub, a place where the physical and spiritual worlds intersected. Yet, direct evidence of ritual practice is limited, leaving room for speculation. Did the architects of Pakime embed knowledge into the very streets and walls, a legacy of thought and understanding encoded in the urban fabric itself? Water management at Pakime is equally remarkable. Channels and cisterns carved into stone and adobe demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics and resource conservation. In a desert where water scarcity dictates life, the city's inhabitants created systems that channeled rainfall, stored it efficiently, and distributed it throughout the settlement. The precision of these channels and the integration with natural topography suggest not only practical ingenuity, but a conceptual mastery of the environment. How did they acquire such expertise? Was it the result of trial and error over generations? Or might it reflect knowledge passed down from an even older civilization, one now lost to time? Artifacts uncovered at Pakime further deepen the mystery. Ornamental objects, exotic materials, and evidence of trade networks hint at cultural and technological sophistication. The presence of macaw feathers, copper bells, and shell ornaments points to extensive connections reaching far beyond the desert, while pottery styles reveal influences from both northern Mexico and the American Southwest. These discoveries underscore the city's role as a nexus of commerce and culture, yet they also raise questions. How was such a network maintained, and what knowledge, technological, organizational, or otherwise, supported it? The absence of written records means that much of this remains conjecture, yet the ruins themselves seem to hold subtle answers within their walls. The construction of Pakime also suggests remarkable social organization. Multi-story dwellings, complex streets, and communal spaces indicate coordination, planning, and labor management on a scale that challenges conventional assumptions about pre-Columbian desert societies. Was there centralized leadership, or did the city operate through cooperative governance, shared knowledge, or some combination thereof? The intricacy of building techniques, the scale of construction, and the integration with the environment all point to a society capable of extraordinary feats. Yet much about their social structure remains elusive. Speculative interpretations have emerged over time, inviting consideration of possibilities beyond conventional archaeology. Some theorists suggest that Pakime's architecture reflects knowledge of celestial patterns or energy lines, with certain structures aligned to solar events or the contours of the land in ways that may have held spiritual or ritual significance. Others have proposed that the city's construction encodes lost knowledge of engineering, agriculture, or environmental management, evidence of a civilization whose understanding surpassed what we typically attribute to pre-Columbian societies in northern Mexico. While direct proof is limited, the very existence of Pakime, its scale, precision, and ingenuity in such a harsh environment, makes it difficult to dismiss the possibility entirely. Walking through the site today, the city's silence is profound. Empty streets, weathered walls, and crumbling terraces evoke the lives of thousands who once lived, worked, and traded here. The complexity of their urban planning, construction, and resource management invites reflection on the human capacity for adaptation and innovation. How did they manage to sustain life, culture, and commerce in a desert environment that seems almost hostile to such ambition? And what knowledge, skills, or traditions were lost when the city was abandoned, leaving behind only ruins and faint traces of human ingenuity? Pakime also challenges assumptions about time and technological capability. Its multi-story structures, sophisticated water management, and alignment with environmental features suggest a society capable of planning and executing projects with precision and foresight. Did they rely solely on observation, experience, and local knowledge? Or were there methods, technologies, or insights that have since been forgotten? Could Pakime represent a broader tradition of knowledge, one that has been obscured by centuries of cultural disruption, environmental change, and historical neglect? As the desert wind moves across the plateau, dusting the stones and filling the courtyards with drifting sand, one becomes acutely aware of the dialogue between permanence and impermanence. Pakime has endured centuries of abandonment, yet it continues to speak, silently but insistently, to those who study its layout, construction, and artifacts. Its terraces, streets, and dwellings invite questions about the nature of human innovation, the limits of architectural knowledge, and the ways in which societies interact with their environment. Every wall, every stairway, every channel carved into stone hints at intelligence, foresight, and perhaps even a lost tradition of wisdom. In the twilight, when shadows stretch long across adobe walls and terraces, the ruins seem almost alive, a remnant of a civilization that demanded both respect and curiosity. The city's abandonment leaves as many questions as it provides answers. Why did such a sophisticated settlement vanish so abruptly? What knowledge, social structures, or technologies were lost with its people? And what lessons, buried beneath centuries of sand and ruin, might still be waiting to illuminate our understanding of pre-Columbian ingenuity. Pakime stands as both a monument and a mystery. It is a place where human ambition meets environmental challenge, where architecture and landscape merge, and where ingenuity and silence coexist. As observers, we are left to ponder the interplay of skill, culture, and environment that allowed such a city to flourish, and the reasons for its sudden disappearance. What remains hidden within its walls, terraces, and water channels? What knowledge might have been encoded into the urban plan, waiting to be rediscovered by those patient enough to explore its depths? The site continues to challenge, inspire, and provoke wonder, reminding us that the past is far richer and more enigmatic than we often imagine. Pakime, like the other extraordinary sites we have explored, confronts us with the limits of our understanding. Its sophistication and scale suggest capabilities that seem, in some ways, far beyond what might have been expected from a desert settlement of its time. Was it a hub of trade, a ceremonial center, a repository of knowledge, or all three? And if so, what might it tell us about human ingenuity and the potential for civilizations to rise, flourish, and vanish, leaving behind only stone, memory, and the enduring mystery of the unknown?